telling us. Let me know when you think it's working. Okay. Thank you very much for letting us know. Okay, with that, has everyone who wanted to speak during non-agenda public comment submitted their request to speak? And is that you, Aurora, or you, Naris? Who you got it? Okay, why don't you go ahead and tell us who our first speaker is, please?
Brenda Settles.
Hi, I'm Brenda Settles, mother of Matthew Settles, who died at George Bailey on August 16, 2022. I support saving lives in custody. Matt was gravely ill with schizoaffective disorder and on permanent conservatorship at this time because he had had another breakdown when his medicine, doctors, and housings were changed. When well, he was smart, athletic, loving, funny. He was beloved by all his family and always part of our lives, even when he was in crisis. He graduated from UCLA, but his illness impacted his ability to trust his mind that had always served him so well before. He had times of stabilization and then horrible breakdowns and hospitalizations. He had been stabilized for a few years before he had this last break, which was very bad, and he was put on permanent conservatorship. When in jail custody, he lost lots and lots of weight. He was weak and he developed pneumonia. Then he was hit and sent to the ER to get 57 stitches in his head, put on stroke watch. Again, he was there within a week. He was there multiple times, and he oftentimes tried to hurt himself. He was not taking his medicine as he should have been under conservatorship. He was sent to isolation, which in his case and similar ones is very well known to be a death sentence, especially with his history of self-harm. He had no phone, no reading, no exercise, no communication. He was transferred without the conservator's knowledge or his case manager's knowledge, and we were denied access to him. Mentally ill patients need proper care when they're in custody. Thank you.
Next, we have Darwin Fishman.
Good evening. Darwin Fishman, he, him, his, Racial Justice Coalition of San Diego. Thank you, CLERB, for this meeting. And I'm glad that you've been able to have Sheriff Martinez accept an invitation to your meeting. I'm hoping that with what you've been working on the last few years, that you continue on that track and that you don't lose sight of the overall goals of what you need to accomplish for oversight, civilian oversight of the jails, and whether it's meeting with Sheriff Martinez or elected officials, that those are steps and a longer process that you need to take. As you know, there continue to be reports, not just about in custody deaths, but about the conditions in the jails, and also about lawsuits, multi-million-dollar lawsuits, and ultimately the county taking the hit for this, the burden for this. We're continuing to come to your meetings. You can obviously hear from the impacted families. You have the auditor's report. You know what was recommended, and you know the path that CLERB is supposed to go and the role it's supposed to play. I'm hoping that as you move forward and have a new EO, that what was set up for all of you and the path that you've taken, you continue regardless of the obstacles you encounter. And that you remember that when you fail and you don't do your job, it doesn't just come up in the state auditor and people that audit and look at in custody jails. It also comes up with the county and the lawsuits and the loss of millions of dollars. And that if you don't play your critical role in changing, that it won't take place. Obviously still left to the sheriff, and even with the new Sheriff Martinez coming in, the same problems with the jails and the conditions in them still exist. Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Next, we have a public comment to be read from DJ McLeod. My name is DJ McLeod and I'm a constituent of Board Supervisor Joel Anderson. District 2, my pronouns are she/her. The legislative passed a law requiring the sheriff to release internal reports regarding jail deaths, and there have been no compliance, irregularities, and the Incarcerated Persons Welfare Fund medical examiner rulings of jail deaths as homicides, the fact that CHP, the newly contracted medical services provider, has ties to previous jail deaths are all just blimps in the news. CLERB attempted to study jail deaths and your requests for data are ignored to the point that you have to hire outside legal counsel just to file Public Record Act's request. There's a dangerous pattern here with the Sheriff's Department disregarding accountability efforts that need to be addressed. I remind you that despite the department's history of fighting it, the people of San Diego have repeatedly shown that they strongly support law enforcement oversight. As a board, you can hold public forums on these issues, seek board supervisor involvement, and call for the state and federal intervention. Be bold in your response. Next, we will have John Settles.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. Yeah, my mother just spoke. I'm the brother of Matthew Settles, who died in custody. My brother, I don't feel really received the proper care that he should have in the custody of the sheriffs. I kind of feel that the sheriffs have been given this trust to watch over our loved ones, and and so many families here were misserved by that trust. He was under conservatorship. He was supposed to be, watched over and handled, like given medication. He wasn't able to advocate for himself. Yet continually, the sheriffs, while he was in custody, allowed him to deny his medication, which led him to go off, and not be able to maintain a proper standing. He ended up with 57 stitches because of that. He ended up dead because the sheriffs did not properly take care of him. We obviously have a problem with that, and there's so many people here who have that same problem. We've all seen that the state had to come in and allow and audit the problem with the incarceration, the deaths and incarceration. So, I think a lot of people are wondering, why are we still here years later? Why is it that this board can't be more proactive and rather than be advisory, have a little more teeth? Why is it that there's not as much accountability? Like Sheriff Martinez, I know you campaigned on transparency and accountability, and yet we as a family 2 years later don't have the reports. We don't really know. The sheriff's liaison that was given to us didn't have any idea about the case or the facility. There's a lot of problems here, and years down the road, here we are. Hopefully we can move forward. Thank you all for your work. Thanks for your time.
Next, we will hear from Deanna Serna.
Hello, my name is Deanna Serna. I'm the little sister of Elisa Serna, who died in Las Colinas, November 11, 2019. I feel like it's kind of messed up after all of these years that us asking for Kelly Martinez to come and talk to the families, that it has to be over Zoom, that she can't come in person and meet us. It's still not enough. I feel like Kelly and her clan of killers need to be held accountable, not just for my sister's death, but for every other hundreds of deaths that's happened in the jails. even though she wasn't sheriff at the time that Elisa died and the other deaths, she was still in in the part of the chain of command. What was she trying to do to stop the deaths then? What was she trying, how was she trying to encourage others to end the deaths then? She should have never got voted in for sheriff. Everything that she said during the debate and before the election has all been lies. What one thing has she done right? What is she? There still have been people dying this year. There's zero effort. She can go on TV and say, "Oh, we're trying so hard, me and my employees." No, you guys haven't done shit. Nothing, not one thing. And CLERB, we've been asking you guys need to stand up to these people. And I hope, I'm so sorry. I hope the guy who took over for the executive officer position, I'm so sorry, I forgot your name. I hope that you have the courage and are willing to stand up to these evil people. Thank you.
Next, we will have David Settles.
Okay, hello, CLERB. I'm also the brother of Matthew Settles. I've come here, spoken a number of times. You've already heard from my mom and my brother. So I just wanted to make a couple points come up here. That I've kind of said before. My family's already said, I was very close to Matthew, my wife, my kids. We all loved Matthew. He was in a crisis. He needed help. I'm looking forward to hear from the sheriffs. I think it's very important what the CLERB's doing here to get the answers for the family. I mean, we're still looking for the answers, but we do know that, Matthew got no treatment. And, as we've all said, all of us know in the community, have family or friends with mental illness, going into custody, they have not been found guilty. So, they deserve the treatment, or at least to be taken care of. And he wasn't, we were very afraid it was a death sentence. Even with all the support of his family, Matthew had no chance. And our worst fears, occurred. And, Matthew was the 18th death. And I keep hearing the families, I'm part of the North County Equity and Justice Saving Lives and campaign. And, I think the improvements haven't happened. So I'm looking forward to what the sheriff and seeing more changes. And thank you, CLERB, for, we need a strong CLERB. Yes, we need with the community, and we need to help all our community and the sheriffs make these changes that are necessary, whether it's mentally ill or also our other, the other families, whether it's drugs or what. Just because you're in jail, you do not deserve to have a death sentence. Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Deanna Sanchez.
Hello. Hi, yes, my name is Diana Sanchez. I am the mother of Diana Granillo. She died on July 13th, 2022. She was the 12th person to die in custody at Las Colinas Jail. She was arrested on July 8th over a non-existent warrant. She should have been given a ticket and sent on her way because it was during COVID, but she wasn't. My daughter was an addict. She was suffering from fentanyl withdrawals. She let the nurse know. She let staff know there. She let them know she was suffering from fentanyl withdrawals. The protocol was not followed. They knew what the protocol was, and it was not followed. I don't understand why they did not follow protocol. And I want Kelly Martinez to know that why did your staff, why did they not follow protocol? Once they found her unresponsive, they did not follow what they were, 12 minutes, my daughter, Ms. Martinez, your staff did not follow protocol. My daughter lay there unconscious, gasping for air. Why? Because she's an addict? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if she's an addict. Why did they just watch her just dying there? That is not right. Addicts' lives matter. It doesn't matter who you are. They are innocent until proven guilty. My daughter should have never been there in the first place. I want, just because she's addicts, it doesn't matter who they are, mentally ill, doesn't matter who they are. They're human beings and they deserve a chance. We deserve medical care and it's not right. I want transparency. I want justice. I want answers. There needs to be a better system in place, and I want that to happen. I don't care if it has to go all the way to the top. I want the president, I need to know that something needs to be done. CLERB, please, we need something to be done. Something needs to change. This cannot keep happening. Addicts' lives matter, people matter, mentally ill people matter. Everything matters. We're innocent until proven guilty. Everybody. My daughter had a son, and now I have to go to visit her at the grave and let her know that her mom died. That's not fair. He has to grow up like that, knowing that his mom.
Your time has expired. Thank you. Next, we will have Yusuf Miller.
Listening to that was painful for me. My name is Yusuf Miller, Executive Director of the North County Equity and Justice Coalition, Saving Lives in Custody campaign. In our system here, we're losing track between people and the hospital. We need to make sure that we get a handle on that. A lot of people who are transferred to the hospital for emergency cases, the family are not knowing what's going on with their loved ones. We have a family member of an incarcerated person who has sickle cell anemia, and he was transferred due to his crisis to the hospital, and the family wants to know, where is this person? Did he die? Our connection between that and reporting back, we have none, and families are suffering from that. And that connection between law enforcement and the hospital not only causes us a uncomfortable ease or loss of ease, but it can cost us lives. How can it cost us lives? An example of Abdul Kamara. Abdul Kamara went to the hospital. He was in there. He had the description of an African-American with no shirt, no shoes and socks, and he's having a crisis. And then when he left the hospital, this went out as an APB or whatever they call it now. It went out, but when the sheriff's department arrested him, they arrested an African-American man with no shirt on, with no shoes and socks. He was not taken back to the hospital, but rather taken to jail for public intoxication. He was put in a wrap device and died. We have people that are not getting their Title 15 constitutional amendments in jail, their medical health and mental health, and we need to wrap our arms around this issue. And when it comes to people with addictions, we have reduced the number of what we're seeing because we're not reporting Narcan deploys, only overdoses. But people who have overdosed and they go to the hospital, they're not telling them whether it was an overdose, so they're not reporting it. We want to see how many Narcan deploys are done in the situation. Thank you.
Next, we have Paloma Serna.
My name is Paloma Serna. I'm the mother of Elisa Serna, who was killed in the Las Colinas on November 11, 2019 by retired Deputy Rashawn Foster, Deputy Lucas Lacey Lovisa, Deputy Tony Hall Bennett, Denny Pasquale, Carol Gilmore, Frederic Von Lente, and many more. And I'm with the North County Equity and Justice Coalition and the Saving Lives in Custody, California. Regarding the Kelly Martinez response letter to the CLERB dated July 15, 2024, Kelly states that she looks towards CLERB for their invaluable input on how to provide a better accountability and service. Well then, Kelly should be scanning her employees, her deputies and medical staff for drug smuggling. Since Kelly took office in 2023, and Donald Altmark, forgive me for pronouncing some of these names incorrectly. Keith Bach, Jonathan McDowell, Timothy Carlton, Zeke Davis, Pedro Ornelas Jr., Paul Hemmark, Rosalie Bartocali, Maximilian Gary, Patricia Adamson, Eddie Faulkner, Robert Shuey, Ryan Throreston, Eric Wolf, Brandon Yates, Layutoa Vitali Via, Abdul Kamara, Majid Al-Majid, Richard Wolford, and Chase Mitchell died on her watch, but was an undersheriff in 2021. These in custody deaths happened under her belt too. Gumericido Alamos, Jerry Alaman, Jerry Burunda, I'm sorry, oh my gosh, Ronald Dino Estrada, Richard Ishbach, Luis Gomez, Rafael Hernandez Jr., Lester Murriquin, Dominic McCoy, Robert Mockner, Omar Moreno Aurora, Saxon Rodriguez, Earl Smith, Teresa Tazone, Jonathan Wick.
Your time has expired. Thank you. Next, we will hear from Andrew Noriega.
Hello and good evening. My name is Andrew. I am Saxon's little brother. I was 6 years old when Saxon died. Every day I feel lonely without Saxon by my side. I wish my big brother was not dead. And I wish the people at Central Jail did more to save my brother. I want to talk to Kelly Martinez about not letting any more big brothers die. Saxon was a very important part of my life. I do not know much about Central Jail, but I do know Saxon should have never died there. Justice for Saxon, justice for all who died in jail.
Next, we will hear from Leslie Crawford.
Yes, Leslie Crawford for Raymond Vogelman. I'd like to succeed my time to Paloma Serna.
Also, Jonathan Wicklock, Erica Wallenberg, Raymond Vogelman, Lionel Vesselnor, Matthew Settle, William Shuck, Abdi Sabara, Lonnie Rupert, Raphael Rees, Stephen Reynolds, Omar Ornelas, Dole Mahler, Jarrell Lacey, Viviana Granello, Gilbert Gill, Joshua Fossbinder, Raymond Dix, James Boschman, Aaron Bonin, and Derek Baker. But Kelly wants to say that since she took office, she made it her priority to enhance the level of care and safety within each of the county's detention facility, and includes improving health and drug screening, offering enhancing medical and mental care services, providing wellness checks. All I can say is lies, lies, lies. Cal Matter reporter Nigel Duran states the San Diego County jail system set a record high of 18 deaths in 2021. A new sheriff took over in February 22, and the jails matched its record total deaths again. The county jail death rates in 2023 was the third highest on record, following only 2021 and 2022. It is disgusting to hear the two latest updates on the death of Lonnie Rupert, who lost 60 pounds and died of dehydration and malnutrition, and Kenneth Bach, who died from a diabetic keto, from diabetic, from not receiving his insulin by neglect from the deputies and medical staff. Both of these deaths are ruled as a homicide. I would like to know if Kelly Martinez is going to present these cases to the DA so they could criminal charge on the medical staff and deputies. Let's end qualified immunity. The last thing I want to say to Kelly is shame, shame, shame. Give us justice.
Next, we have Cindy Whittle.
Good evening. I'm here representing North County Equity and Justice Coalition and Saving Lives in Custody, California. I am the mother of Saxon Rodriguez. My son died 3 years ago after just 4 days in Central Jail. He died in a facility that has ample resources, a $1.1 billion budget, and enough medical and sworn staff on site. 3 years later, I am still asking how the fentanyl that killed my son got into Central Jail undetected, and why was nobody charged with his death? Why were the staff on the 4th floor not held accountable for failing to follow state-mandated timely cell checks? On October 25th, 2022, impacted families attended the sheriff's debate with the intention of speaking with both candidates, but Kelly Martinez ran out of the building as we called to her. That was 2 years ago, and we have continued to ask her to meet with us impacted families. The family of Elisa Serna, Kevin Mills, Omar Moreno Arroyo, Matthew Settles, Gilbert Gill, Raymond Vogelman, Pedro Ornelius Jr., Lonnie Rupert, and Viana Granillo, just to name a few. Kelly Martinez continues to lie and mislead the media and community about meeting with us impacted families. We have all asked numerous times. We have even rallied outside her office. Kelly, we know you have the power to facilitate a meeting with the Board of Supervisors, our community activists, and the board members from CLERB. We want to discuss the CLERB report recommendations authored by Professor Fairley and the founders of San Diegans for Justice, Andrea St. Julian and Marissa Tolbert. We are confident that you, Sheriff Kelly Martinez, have the legal and financial power of leadership to implement and put into policy all of these recommendations, as well as empower CLERB with more authority and jurisdiction over jail death investigations, over jail medical staff, and over deputy misconduct, causing great bodily harm and death of incarcerated people. I know my time is up, but of course I want to say to my beloved son, Saxon, may you rest in peace.
Next, we have Marcus Boyd.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much. I am recently a victor of a civil rights lawsuit against the county sheriff last week. The jury found mostly in my favor. It was represented by the Kinsey Scott law firm for simply filming the sheriffs in Imperial Beach. When I started the Cop Watch Imperial Beach organization in 2020, shortly after that, we were being mistreated by the sheriffs while we would film them, and CLERB was courteous enough to send them a letter outlining our rights and asking them to abide by them. Since then, it's gotten tremendously worse, and if I invite you to pull the transcript of the case, it's still in litigation, so I can't speak much of it, but if you pull the transcript of the trial and specifically Sergeant Munch's testimony, you will find some issues that need to be complained about, but because of litigation, I'm unable to. The Sheriff's Department has a lack of transparency issue that is unstoppable at this point. Any attempt at transparency is negated here. At this point, there is a concerted effort to jail us all for simply filming them. So I invite you, please, to watch what's going on here, and as we try to prevent other deaths in our community. Thank you.
Next, we will have Michael Serna.
Yes, I'm the father of Elisa Serna, who died in Las Colinas, 2019 in November the 11th. As you sit there, I hope you hear the frustration, the heartbreak, and all the emotions that so many people are pouring out to you. This happens over and over every month as we come here. You time and time again send your representatives to see what we have to say, to run issues back and forth to you guys. But as you hear the names of those who have perished under your watch being mentioned and named over and over again, little good does these errand boys do as they run back and forth with all of these suggestions. It just goes to show the community that you are doing nothing. Everything that is happening, all of the news conferences that you do and all the things that you run around and say how you're trying to change everything. The names of these individuals, I hope they ring in your ears tonight, because it shows the community that you are really doing nothing, because the problem has not stopped. It goes on and on. It doesn't matter which sheriff, whether it was Gore or you, it's still happening. People are still having to bury their loved ones. Children are still having to grow up without their fathers or mothers. And you guys act like it doesn't matter because they had problems. Well, look around. This is happening in all of our communities. This is happening in all of our families. And if you are supposed to be at the head, at the helm, trying to save us all from it, what are you doing? We as a community cry out to you in our frustration. You hear the range of emotions. What will you do? Will you continue to lie? Or will you actually do your job? Thank you, CLERB, for your time.
Next, we have Michael Cerna. No, sorry. Beverly Alanjari. Beverly, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was already, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
My goodness. Okay, let me start again. Good evening. I'm Beverly Alanjari, grandmother of Viana Granillo's son. I am a very concerned citizen of San Diego who was born and raised here. Ms. Martinez, please take note that inmates who are refusing help when offered is much different than someone who is begging for help and in critical distress, and their life is at the mercy of jail staff. They should not be taunted or ignored for any reason. Proper care should be consistent and not just on occasion. Viana Granillo's life depended on it, and she was let down. Basic human treatment needs to be taught, along with compassion, to jail staff, deputies, and medical personnel working in San Diego jail. Most inmates are addicts and need serious medical detox and mental health care. Please be the one who will change the San Diego jail and how they are run. Action and numbers speak louder than words. Let your legacy be that change. You are the one who can make a difference. Unfortunately, it is a myth to think if someone is in jail, then they are safe and being rehabilitated. Please help to make this a truth and not a myth. Thank you.
Chair Pintar, that concludes our request to speak.
Okay. Aurora, we're still within time, so if she's asking for public comment, go ahead and let her speak, please.
Apologies, sorry. Sabrina Weddle.
Hello, good evening. To CLERB, Kelly Martinez, who I should have known would not be present in person. And for everyone else, for those who don't know me, I am Sabrina Weddle, Saxon Rodriguez's older sister. This evening, you guys heard from my 9-year-old little brother. And I just want you guys to take note as to why I'm so angry when I come up here, because I have 2 little brothers that Saxon left behind. I am the oldest and I will continue to fight for what I know is right. Saxon died July 20th, 2021 in San Diego County Jail. Saxon not only died from methamphetamine and fentanyl, but from the lack of San Diego Sheriff's care. The medical examiner stated that 5 minutes and 28 seconds cost him his life. And my shirt states that CLERB determined that the San Diego Sheriffs were at failure for keeping the drugs that caused his death. The deputies Brian Powell, Andrew Randovich, Maxwell Rimple, Andre Wanzer will never be held responsible for checking my brother too late. Melissa Burns, Reggie Barreto, Carrie Cavello, Rita Encarnacion, Caitlin Hendricks, Marlene Abanza, Kelly Payne, Levy Santos, and Chantel Williams will never be held accountable because CLERB doesn't even have jurisdiction over the medical staff. I've seen time and time again the San Diego sheriff sit outside this room and read these documents of how they can get away with anything and everything. Nothing is justified. Everything is justified. Nothing says that they'll ever be held accountable. They do what the fuck they want when they want. And my little brother has to sit here and suffer. And one cuss word won't hurt him because, again, his brother's dead. Kelly Martinez, it's a shame that you can't be here present, but I should have known because of October 25th, you ran out of the debate like the clown you are. And I wonder if you'll stay for our comments after your presentation, because last month, the people you sent here to do a presentation on people with disabilities, they ran out of here. It shows that these meetings are useless.
Chair Pintar, that concludes our request to speak.
Okay, thank you. And thank you to everybody who is here in person and online. And we got through any public comments that were in writing as well, right? Those are for the other items. Okay, thank you. We'll move to item number 4, minutes approval. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? GI. Okay, a motion from Mr. Wilson and a second from Dr. Brown. Thank you. We move to item number 5, a presentation from, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Bonnie.
Chair Mariam Pintar,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nadia Keene-Ayub,
Yes.
Secretary Bonnie Kink, yes. Dr. Brown,
Yes.
Ariana Federico Mondragon,
Yes.
G.I. Wilson,
Yes.
Adele Fasano,
Abstain.
motion pass.
Thank you, and thanks for the reminder, Bonnie. We now move to item number 5, a presentation and training from the Sheriff, Kelly Martinez. Welcome, Sheriff. I think we have a PowerPoint to, it's up there. I'm sorry. See it now. Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me here tonight, Chair Pintar and Board.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. The presentation I have tonight, I did, by the way, just listen to the public comment. I know a lot of focus of this audience, and we will talk about the jails, but I wanted to give an overview of the Sheriff's Office. So the first slide is just an introduction. If you'll please go to the next slide. This articulates our mission and vision. We provide the highest quality public safety service to everyone in San Diego County. And then we We strive to always be an organization that leads the nation in providing the high-quality public safety service, and we recognize the importance of investing in our county jails. The way we incarcerate people directly impacts public safety. We will be a leader in jail innovations to create and maintain safe facilities. We are an organization that invests in correctional health care, substance use treatment, community reentry, and ongoing improvements that ensure our jails are ADA compliant with transitional services that deliver the best outcomes for justice-involved individuals. We'll be at the forefront of implementing technology advancements that enhance customer and employee experience, reduce redundancy, add value, safety, and protect privacy rights. So the Sheriff's Office, we are the chief law enforcement agency in the County of San Diego. We cover over 4,200 square miles and a population of over 3.3 million. The department operates 7 detention facilities, 18 patrol stations, a crime laboratory, and an array of support operations, which are necessary to provide full law enforcement services to the County of San Diego. Our primary police services are provided to nearly 1 million county residents. We include those in 9 contract cities, the Grossmont-Cuyamaca College District, and 18 Indian reservations. The Sheriff's Office has over 4,700 employees. We provide general law enforcement, detention, and court security services, as well as regional investigative support and tactical emergency response. The Sheriff's Office is responsible for booking arrestees and releasing incarcerated persons, ensuring court appearances, and providing necessary daily care for nearly 4,000 people per day. Last year, the Sheriff's detention facilities processed 50,169 unduplicated bookings. Additionally, the Reentry Services provides programming to incarcerated individuals in a trauma-informed culture that is gender responsive, as well as incorporating a vast number of program and rehabilitative efforts to reduce recidivism. Services provided to the San Diego Superior Court include weapons screening and courtroom security. The Sheriff's Office also serves as the county's levying and enforcement agency for execution, service, and return of all writs, warrants, and temporary restraining orders. There should be a slide with or a budget slide. Yeah, thank you. So this is a depiction of our budget and the money spent in the different bureaus. As you can see, we have a budget of about $500 million for detention services. That's the largest allocation of monies. Next slide, please. This slide shows our demographics and our employee population. We have about 1,500 women, or 37% of our employees. Men are about 2,571. Sworn staff is 2,372, and our professional staff positions are 1,763. We break our organization into bureaus to manage similar jobs. We have Court Services Bureau, a Detention Services Bureau, Human Resources, Law Enforcement, and Management Services Bureau. Next slide just gives an overview of our organizational chart and how we break down all of the different responsibilities in order to better manage all of our people. This slide depicts the location of all of our stations, substations, offices, the courthouses, detention facilities, and other facilities under our area of responsibility. I wanted to show all of the different oversight and accountability entities that have jurisdiction over the Sheriff's Office, the grand jury, the state auditor and controller, the Board of State Community Corrections, the Office of the Attorney General, the County of San Diego, Department of Justice, U.S. Department of Justice, of course, this body, and then the residents, ultimately the residents of San Diego County. So we achieve our mission through modern policing and incarceration. Some of the improvements in our jails, which have happened primarily in the last 2 years, have been wellness checks. We've created a wellness protocol called Wellness Checks. It's a multidisciplinary group of our staff that includes sworn staff up to the facility commander, medical and mental health providers, as well as correctional counselors. The program is designed for individuals who may not necessarily be able to communicate or advocate for their own needs. At the central jail, these checks take place every week for everyone in our custody at that jail. We visit them in their cells, make sure they're eating, taking their medications, make sure they don't have any counseling needs or other medical needs. and we provide them the support and care to ensure their wellness. We've instituted body scanners and screening. We have moved forward to procure the latest technology of body scanners. It's our second generation of body scanners. This helps eliminate the introduction of illegal narcotics into our jail facilities. We have a new employee screening process, which was launched in July of this year for sheriff's personnel, both sworn and professional, as well as contractors, volunteers, and professional visitors who enter our county jails. They undergo the screening, including their belongings. And we have sheriff's canine trained in detecting illegal drugs that are also present during the screening process and then move throughout the jail facility, both in employee areas and incarcerated population areas, to ensure there are no drugs that were missed. We instituted voluntary urine screening at intake, and we have a more robust medication-assisted treatment. Everyone who is booked into our facilities undergoes a medical evaluation, includes a voluntary urine screening. It helps us identify any substances people have in their system when they come into our facilities. The information guides the treatment plan they will receive from Sheriff's Medical Services. We have a drug interdiction team, which is something new in the last 2 years, and this is really a much more robust interdiction of narcotics or other smuggling that may occur at intake. We've seen record narcotic interceptions at the point of booking from individuals who were attempting to smuggle drugs into the jails. These interceptions have had a direct impact on the decrease of overdoses taking place within the facilities. It's created a centralized mail processing center that also proactively stops narcotic-laced letters from reaching into our facilities. Other improvements in our jails. This is new and hasn't been announced yet, so I'm happy to share it with you tonight. We are going to have new provider presence at intake of our 3 intake facilities. Physicians and nurse practitioners will now be added to the intake process. Incarcerated persons will presenting with the medical symptoms and will be evaluated prior to housing. Module assignments, this will give a higher level, an enhanced level of medical evaluation when they come into our custody so we can provide them better care. They will complete the health assessments and prescribe treatment as indicated, and they will schedule new patient for appointments and things like that while they're in our custody. We also have added a partnership with Paradise Valley Hospital. We are partnering to establish a secure hospital ward, which will provide inpatient healthcare services for incarcerated people, in addition to security services for them while they are there, provided by my staff, but the hospital staff will be treatment physicians and whatnot for individuals who are there. The partnership will build on the goal of improving effective and quality care by managing a secured hospital ward that will provide 19 beds for exclusive use by our hospital guard unit. And this will be started by January of 2025. This slide is a snapshot into some of just statistics about our detention facilities. In 2018, we were booking about 80,000 people into our custody every year. Last year, we were down to about 50,169. It's stayed right around 50,000 for the last 4 years. The average daily jail population right now is right around 4,000, which has pretty much been the case since COVID. So another snapshot, that's just the average population by facility. The largest population is at the George Bailey facility with 1,185. San Diego Central Jail is 858, and so on. East Mesa has 153, our lowest population. So statistics from our areas of patrol operations, our crime rates are at historic lows, 37-year lows. We're down about 13% in overall crime rates this year. I should say last year. This slide is talking about our reentry services division, which provides evidence-based reentry services. We strive to reduce returns to custody and increase public safety in collaboration with criminal justice partners and community agencies. The reentry services division is committed to providing quality services and programs to support people in custody and to prepare them for a successful transition back into our communities. The Reentry Services Divisions adapted programs, classes, and services to accommodate both the sentenced and unsentenced populations. They serve high-level classifications and meet both long and short-term reentry needs. They include vocational services, education, certification, and degrees, wellness, psychosocial services, veterans moving forward. We have a veterans module for that population, which is unique to any other population in our care. We have job centers and employment readiness, peer residential leadership academies, and community resources to support transition back into the community. One of the things I am committed to is gun safety in our communities. We have gun safety events. Since 2021, we have conducted gun safety events, more commonly known as gun buybacks, or previously known as gun buybacks throughout the county. The goal is to make the gun safety event a community effort. We raise awareness of gun violence in the community and encourage residents to address gun violence. We had 10 gun safety events from 21 to 23, collected over 2,100 firearms during those events, and we also give out gun locks and gun safes during these events. Our homeless outreach team began in 2019. The Homeless Assistance Resource Team, or HART team, perform homeless outreach operations throughout the unincorporated areas of San Diego County. For our contract cities, we have other operations. The HART operations focus on identifying individuals experiencing homelessness and offering wraparound services in partnership with community-based organizations and county departments. They conduct environmental cleanups and work with service providers to offer resources. In 23-24, they made over 4,000 contacts with unhoused individuals, conducted 821 homeless outreach events, housed 475 people at risk for homelessness, and completed 261 cleanup operations in collaboration with county partners. The North County Sheriff's Captains are leading the North County region in doing these outreach events with Carlsbad PD, Oceanside, and Escondido Police Departments as well. So we've got a three-pronged approach to combating the fentanyl crisis that's occurred in our communities. It's education, enforcement, and harm reduction. We do a number of community events helping to inform and educate our community members of the danger of illicit drugs and what it looks like, how it's taken, how to identify people who are using drugs, and how to get them help. We also know that enforcement is a necessary piece of this program, and we participate in the fentanyl abatement and suppression team. We treat fentanyl overdose deaths as homicides and investigate them that way, trying to identify who's dealt the drugs to the individual who died. We also have harm reduction. We are the first agency in the county to provide naloxone community-wide, and also to all of the individuals in our custody. They have access to naloxone, and that is received some NACO Achievement Awards, that program. Some of our community outreach, one of the programs we're very proud of is our Sheriff's Spanish Academy. The program is specifically geared towards our Spanish-speaking communities. We've held several of these so far. We have up to 100 people participate over 6 weeks of the program. The topics include immigration laws, what to expect at a traffic stop, domestic violence, drug education, human and labor trafficking, hate crimes, gangs, and how to become a sheriff's deputy. Another program we spearheaded and are very proud of is the Blue Envelope program. It's designed to promote inclusivity and serve as an enhanced communication awareness tool between law enforcement and community members diagnosed with a condition or disability such as autism, spectrum disorder, dementia, anxiety, or other conditions that might require additional accommodations or awareness during law enforcement interaction. The program was designed in collaboration between the San Diego County Sheriff's Office, community organizations, the County Police Chiefs and Sheriff Association, and San Diego County Board of Supervisors. The Blue Envelope program works by allowing an individual to readily display the blue envelope or present a blue envelope upon contact with law enforcement or community service personnel. The blue envelope branded products can contain individual identification, contact information, or pertinent vehicle operating documents, and the blue envelope program does not have a registry component, and it's voluntary. Just some statistics. Annually, we have 1,548 people participate in alternative to custody programs. We provide daily care to an average of 3,971 people in our jails every day. We made over 22,000 arrests last year. We cleared 9,400 plus warrants. We had over 8,000 reentry interventions in our jails. We responded to over 204,000 calls for service, 336,000 911 calls. So most of those are pretty self-explanatory. We also have a wildland fire response, and we do search and rescue operations in our communities. We found 291 persons, and we delivered over 955 water drops throughout our communities. This final slide is just places where you can see more information about our organization. We have our website, which contains a lot of information about whatever topic you might be interested in. We just started a new sheriff's newsletter to try to better inform people about what we're doing and where they can find information about our organization. We're on X, and we also have Twitter, or not Twitter, but other Instagram and other social media pages. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take questions from the board if you have any.
Yeah, we're going to. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Is this presentation possible to share on our website or? Okay, that would be
absolutely.
great. So we will put it on the website.
Yep.
We will take questions from the board and then we will move to public comment. So, questions from the board? I have some, but I usually try to wait till the end. Anyone? Go ahead, Nadia.
I think one of the largest things that we seem to debate when we're in closed session is that the policies and procedures are written in a way that allow for leniency depending on what the officer at that time decides. So there is no standard that we can apply. For me, that's a problem because it means that we don't have accountability that we can register if that decision harms someone or permanently maims someone, which we've seen. So because you are enacting all these new things, which are great, are they going to update the policies as well to ensure that there is a guideline through the officers that are a standard for them to uphold?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think that's really a good point. We do put policies in place, and we work with our unions as well on those policies, and all of our legal advisors and everyone else. We follow, to the best of our ability, we try to narrow the policies so that it's very specific, but at the same time, we have to give some latitude for decision-making and critical thinking in an incident that might occur. We are doing policies for all of these new things that we're enacting so that we can ensure that people have those guidelines to follow.
Ariana.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. For the intake piece, you mentioned that there would be physicians and nurses. From folks that, attend, they share that a lot of their loved ones come in with mental health disorders. So I'm trying to understand if these nurses or physicians will be able to, include, any of these diagnoses or any of these symptoms or markers that will tell us that they have a mental health disorder. I know sometimes people don't share that, there is a big, I forget the word, stigma around it. So I just want to understand if there's going to be something else that the department can do to support these folks, because I think we could be saving a lot of lives with that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We currently have mental health clinicians that are available, and then we have telepsychiatry that's available intake. One of the auditor's recommendations, which we agree with, is that there's not enough private spaces at intake for people to share personal information or have those private conversations with a mental health professional. We've expanded that a little bit at the Vista Jail. That was where we had the largest problem. And we hope with new construction and some of the other improvements to our facilities, we can build spaces where there's more safe space and treatment areas for individuals who have who have that need. We also think that group therapy is useful in some instances, and some other things that we don't always have accommodations for currently in our structure. So yeah, those are really top of mind. I think mental health and treatment of that for people in custody, particularly even you might not come in with a diagnosed mental health problem, but going through the court process obviously can be very stressful, being away from family, being in custody setting. We have worked more collaboratively with public defenders and understanding what happens in court on a given day, so that when, we can have that feedback that someone might be at risk when they come back from a stressful day in court, or they got some bad news or a sentence that could be very depressing for them, that type of thing. So I appreciate the comment. It's definitely top of mind and something that we're working very hard on. Mhm.
And I do have another question. Fentanyl is something that's been also reoccurring. And I see that you have multiple things that you're doing. Is there anything else that's kind of missing that you're learning from all the accountability or oversight groups that you communicate with, that maybe you're trying to work on? I think just overall, like, the fentanyl, the drug issues, is such a big issue for many communities. It doesn't discriminate on gender, race, or anything. So I'm just wondering if there's something for us to learn more about.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for that. We've done a lot of work, but it's such a granular narcotic. It's very easy to smuggle. One area that I would really like to shore up is mail. I'd like it if we didn't have any mail or packages or anything coming into the facilities. One way to, and I think a recommendation came from this board that we're working towards. We think with the new smartphone technology we're installing, we'll be able to do a tablet sort of a system where we can scan a lot of the mail to individuals so that they don't actually have the physical mail. They can, and that'll prevent a lot of narcotics or potential for narcotics to come in. Going to a centralized mail processing center helped a lot, and we do all of the mail screening at one location now, so it's a little more controlled. We do a lot, and I'm really grateful that the district attorney and the U.S. attorney have stepped up prosecutions. We've had better luck with prosecuting individuals who've smuggled drugs into jail or actively trafficking narcotics in our jails. It's a big problem. Contraband's always going to be a struggle for any facility or any incarcerated population, but we also actively and aggressively are working on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. I have some questions since I was trying to see if anyone else has any first. The drug interdiction team. I don't know if you can tell us, but you said that have they been operating for the last 2 years? Is that what you said? Is it they're relatively new the last 2 years?
Yeah, they're relatively new. I want to say 2 years, but I can find out exactly for you.
I don't know if you can answer this, but if it's a security concern, but can you tell us generally when you are catching people trying to smuggle drugs in the jails, who's bringing it? Is it family members? Is there anything that you can tell us about where you're generally seeing it come in?
It's the arrestees, the people who are being booked into our facilities. People have purposely been arrested. Probation violation was the most common way that they would actively want to be arrested, because there's such a market for narcotics in a facility. It's about 25 cents to 60 cents for a fentanyl pill on the street, for instance. It's upwards of $200 in jail. So it's an extremely lucrative market, and there's people are intentionally smuggling it into our jails when they come into our facilities as an arrestee through the mail. We've traced that back to the community, done search warrants, and made arrests for people who have been participating in drug trafficking in the facilities. It's a complex problem. There's a lot of driver for those narcotics. One way that we're hoping to curb some of the desire for the drug is through our medication-assisted treatment program. The more people we can have in treatment, hopefully the less of a need or desire for the drugs.
And sort of in the same line of questioning, the new screening process that's random and it varies at the various detention facilities for now. Is there a point at which you can report back to us what you are finding, what you are learning? Again, I understand that there are security concerns about keeping it random and keeping some of that stuff private, but we're trying to gauge, like, how do we determine whether it's been effective and whether it's working? And then how, if it is, how can we support you to make sure that this is happening at all the facilities all the time? Is that something that you're going to be able to come back and tell us?
Yeah, thanks for that. We had that discussion this afternoon. We will. We're
Okay.
keeping data on those searches, how often we're able to do them, the frequency. We haven't found anything yet. We do run the dogs after they do the contraband screening as the employees and people are arriving to work. We run the dogs through the facility as well, just to see if we missed anything in an employee work area or anything like that. So far, we haven't. My team anticipates having some data after the first of the year. We'll have to present to the Board of Supervisors with that ask, right, for more personnel, more staff. No, unfortunately, we don't grow deputies on trees, so it'll take a little while to hire people, even if the board does support the numbers. Right now, the process we have, we think, is as thorough as possible to try to get narcotics and things like that. We might have to go to a model where it's, very intense randomly and then less intense everywhere else just to keep. So we're still working on what that looks like and what's going to be the most effective model that we can stand up as soon as possible. My desire is that we do this at every facility every day, 24/7 for everyone who comes into the jails. I think it's safer for our staff, frankly, and it's also safe for the individuals who are in custody.
You have a general sense of when you might be able to come back to us with some sort of update on how it's going, whether it's working?
Marion,
Yep.
jump in just for a second. We've confirmed with the drug interdiction team that they're going to come next month
Oh,
to the board and
okay.
give us a presentation. And then we expect them to come back after the additional information to come in.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
Appreciate it. You didn't know and I didn't know, but that's good.
That's why we have the expert.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I have other questions, but the one I think is the most important for now is that there was an article, front page of the Union Tribune this weekend. I believe the headline was 5 years since investigation regarding deaths in the jails. And as you know, it's our priority. My priority here is how we fix that. In that, the chair of the Board of Supervisors, Chairwoman Vargas, is quoted saying that she's been working with the Sheriff's Department to make sure that our jails have the proper protocols and staffing, and working to implement some of the recommendations that came from the audit. Can you tell us what kind of improvements or recommendations from the audit that you're working on with the Board of Supervisors?
Yeah, all of the supervisors have been very interested, obviously, that we implement the recommendations of that audit. Where we're at now, what's left really of the implementation of the audit recommendations are infrastructure. And so the board has been very actively invested in helping to support us. The one thing, the therapeutic space for mental health, a lot of that's going to take infrastructure and funding for the construction work. So the board all along has been supportive of, and I'm really grateful for their investment in safe jails as well. They've helped us to incentivize nursing jobs in the facilities, which is really a key component of keeping people safe and healthy. They've done some other things that wasn't necessarily for in custody deaths, but free phone calls for people in our custody. So they've done a lot towards working towards healthier facilities. Primarily, they are interested in making sure that I'm fully staffed and incentivizing hiring and getting more people working in our jails so that we can expand a lot of the programs that we need to for healthcare. They've supported hiring more healthcare professionals in general with our NAVCare contract and now the CHP contract. And all of those things go to the board for approval. So they've been working with us on that.
Appreciate that. I was particularly noticed that comment because I have been contacting members of the Board of Supervisors about the recommendations that this board approved about changing our jurisdiction. This was back in February, and that has to be approved by the Board of Supervisors, and that would include expanding our jurisdiction over medical, which comes up a lot. A lot of the cases that we review, as you may probably know, have to do with medical care. A lot of the comments that we receive from families and others here have to do with medical care. So we are really hopeful that those recommendations will get approved by the Board of Supervisors. And, it's not a secret to you that is something that we're looking for as well.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Uh-huh. Are there any other questions from, yes, Mr. Wilson?
Ma'am, I have several questions. Is the Veterans Moving Forward program or the Veterans Module, is that still ongoing?
It is, with a lot of the booking acceptance criteria changing and the individuals we have in our custody now, many of the veterans are actually lower level offenders, so we don't have as many in our custody, but we still have the ability to identify daily if any veterans have been booked into our jails, and we contact them immediately to see if they want to go to the Veterans Module, which happens to be in Vista. So some don't want to go to North County. They prefer to stay near their families in South County or other facilities. But yes, I was there, I want to say a week and a half ago, and it's still very robust and going very well.
Could you give us an idea, just round numbers, how many deputies are you short, particularly in the detention bureau? Because if you don't have the personnel, it makes it very difficult to pay attention to all the details.
Yeah, so I was told today we are short 172 deputies in our facilities, the jails specifically. And the way that we've been able to manage that is we aren't fully occupying some of our jails because we don't have the staff, frankly, to do that. So the Rock Mountain facility, we only have one module filled there with people in custody because I don't have enough staff to staff that facility completely. Same with East Mesa Detention and Reentry Facility. Unfortunately, that's the men's reentry facility. So we have a very small population there because I don't have staff. The Las Colinas actually has the most empty beds of about 700, but a lot of that is ADA compliance, and also women don't offend at the same rate as men. So we have fewer women in custody and just not enough staff really to fill that.
A healthcare question. You're going to put physicians and nurse practitioners at intake, and I really applaud you for doing that. Will there be a way for your physicians, your nurse practitioners, with an arrestee's permission, to get access to their health records, say from the VA or TRICARE or from UCSD or Scripps? Will they have a system where they can, a means where they can tap into their arrestee's medical record?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I should have brought that up. That's exactly the beauty of having them there at intake, because they will be able to access community health care records more easily. Right now, we don't always have that access. So having a doctor or a physician who can actually call and get the records. A lot of people, unfortunately, when they come into our custody, can't remember how many prescription medications they're on, or what they're taking, or what they don't know their entire medical history. And so that'll be really helpful. That'll be a key component.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Maybe not tonight, but I think all of us here would like to know a little bit more about the Paradise Valley Hospital Partnership and how it will be determined when someone comes to intake, whether they are referred to the hospital, I suppose. I don't know how that works, but I'm very curious.
Yeah, we'll do a presentation on that once we get that established and show you pictures of what it looks like. It's really intended for people who have been in custody for some period of time, not necessarily someone at intake, and they need medical care and they need, or hospitalization. So we can take them to a hospital wing that's specifically developed for, it's secure, and that has medical staff that are there to treat them specifically. So it should enhance what we're doing now.
That would be helpful. And I think that we have a lot of questions that come up all the time in closed session when we're reviewing these cases related to mental health, how people that are being approached out in the community by our deputies, how the mental health resources that the county says that they are committing to this, more of it more recently. When did those get incorporated, and when are they contacted, and when are they brought out to scene? Some of the cases that we review, I really wonder, like, why wasn't PERT called, or why weren't some of these other resources called, or were they called and someone wasn't available? I think it would be beneficial for all of us to hear sort of a presentation on that in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Just connect with Lieutenant Perkins and he can schedule those.
Any other questions from the board? Yes, Dr. Brown.
Thank you. Are you going to be getting data on how many people are incarcerated when they come in who are ill, sick, or have mental challenges? Are you going to be capturing that data?
Oh, we probably have that. I know some of it's a little difficult because we do send people out. Officers will come in with someone we can't medically clear because we don't have the capability to treat them. So
Mhm.
they'll go to the hospital. That happens frequently. We can probably tease out some of that data if you want to work with Lieutenant and be specific about what you'd like to see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, Ariana.
Thank you. I was wondering to Marianne's question, what kind of community, and you might or may not have the answer, is what kind of like community outreach is done for members of the public to understand, like when they call 911, like how do they know if PERT is coming, if they have a loved one, like how does one learn that?
So you mean when you're in the crisis, in the moment of the
Yeah.
crisis?
Yeah.
So there's sort of three steps. There's a non-law enforcement response if the person's not a danger, to other individuals, which is the mobile crisis response team. And you can specifically request that through 211. If you're calling a deputy, they'll screen that call as well to find out. They'll ask questions about the threat level of the individual or the incident and whether a deputy should respond, whether a deputy with a PERT clinician should respond, or whether they can call 211 for you and have a mobile crisis response team come, a non-law enforcement response. So PERT can only come in if the scene is stabilized. So if there's still some danger or some hazard or something going on where the deputies don't feel it's safe for the clinician to come in and help with the situation, then the PERT clinician may be on scene or maybe in the car, but may not be able to come in. So I don't know if when you're on the phone, I honestly don't know if it depends on the situation, whether they
Yeah.
can tell you if PERT is there or not.
Yeah.
You don't specifically ask for PERT. PERT does do follow-up with people in the community that they'll have spoken to them the week before and then they check up on them. Just a low-key, they're not called for service. They just go check on the individual to make sure that they got what they needed, medication or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, safety definitely is the priority. I think that's what sometimes it's confusing that you
Yeah.
would think that there is a mental health response versus.
Yeah, and the nice thing now with the crisis stabilization units like the one in Vista, I think there's 5 in the county now. Deputies can drop off an individual and it only takes 5 or 10 minutes. It used to be 7 or 8 hours waiting in a hospital emergency room with an individual in handcuffs, which is really the last thing someone in crisis needs. So it's nice that they can drop them off with, if they're not a danger, they fit the criteria for the CSU. And they're treated immediately with psychiatrists and other help, and the deputy leaves, so law enforcement's no longer involved.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Dr. Brown, and then we're going to go to public comment.
The Blue Envelope Program, how much is that being used and by the people? And are you going to be sharing that idea throughout law enforcement, throughout the state and the country? I think it's unique, and I think it's I think it's a great program because I think it'll do a lot to help a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a phenomenal program. Riverside Sheriff partnered with me last year. We tried to pass legislation to make it a statewide program. That legislation didn't really take off, so it didn't pass. We have collaborated and provided the information, so it's been adopted by some other agencies. We actually kind of stole the idea from Connecticut, where they use it. We have a booth, I think it's next week, on Paula Indian Reservation, so that some of our tribal members can start implementing it throughout the reservations. We'll certainly share it with the tribal communities up and down the state. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity to de-escalate situations, particularly with law enforcement and our community.
I'm thinking get more information in the media too. I'm finding that not a lot of people still don't know about it. They said they don't know about it.
Maybe we'll do another blast out to the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. We are going to move to, Okay, GI, last board comment, and then we're
I
moving to
need to
public comment.
chime in
Yep.
because Sheriff, one of you, I think it's your crime prevention specialist in coordination with the Palomar PD Police Department. They're coming tomorrow to brief my students on the blue envelope program.
Fantastic.
So I'm really excited to hear about that. But we're having quite a bit of an outreach, and so we're hearing about it at Palomar College.
Well, hopefully we can put a lot of that on social media tomorrow night. That'd be great.
Okay, Aurora, I think I just checked in on the number of people that have submitted a request to speak. Based on the number of people who've submitted a request to speak, I'm going to limit the comments to 2 minutes per person and see how we do for time. Okay?
Sabrina Whittle.
Hello and good evening. Welcome, Kelly Martinez. I definitely thought you weren't here. So excuse my Brian Powell, Andrew Randovich, Maxwell Wimple, and Andre Wanzer. Those were the 4 deputies responsible for him July 20th, 2021. 4th floor, again, at San Diego Central Jail. There was 9 nurses there that also could not save my brother. Melissa Burns, Reggie Barreto, Carrie Cavello, Reincarnacia, Caitlin Hendricks, Marlene Abanza, Kelly Payne, Levy Santos, and Chantel Williams. Melissa Burns is a nurse that's been employed by San Diego County Jail for the last 11 years. She took it upon herself to attend one of these meetings and state that jail is the best place to receive treatment for an overdose. However, she couldn't save my brother the day that he died. My shirt states that CLERB found that San Diego sheriffs failed to keep the drugs that killed my brother out of the facility. He did not purposely get arrested to die. Chula Vista police arrested him, kept his fentanyl, and returned his fentanyl to us after he died. So I wonder if it was one of the 4 deputies, again, Brian Powell, Andrew Randovich, Maxwell Wimple, and Andre Wanzer. Let's not forget about the deputy that was arrested for having cocaine on premises, who had access to the inmates. So it's not just the inmates bringing in these drugs. But I know that we want to keep this drug chain running. Not only do those fentanyl pills cost $200 come jail, but those are extra money that these 6-figure deputies also wouldn't mind making. I hope to see more change than what has been presented to us. Being scanned by a metal detector will not pick up fentanyl. Thank you.
Next, we have Denise Settles.
Hi, I am the sister-in-law of Matthew Settles. I am here tonight. I wanted to speak in open, but I'm glad to be speaking now instead. I just want to say that it's a good step in the right direction to have medical professionals and nurse practitioners at intake, but I urge you very strongly to also have psychiatric professionals. My brother-in-law has a long and well-documented history of mental illness. He started having symptoms in college. He was in and out of mental institutions throughout the state of California. He had been in the state institution in LA. As a matter of fact, when he was put into jail, he was removed from the county facility. So how it was overlooked that he had a mental health crisis and mental health issues is mind-boggling to me. He had zero business being in jail. As we all know, our mental health infrastructure is broken, but if the jails are going to serve as a de facto mental health facility, they need to be better equipped to deal with the population of people that are coming in. He was schizoaffective. He wasn't a drug user. He wasn't a criminal. He was just mentally ill, and he did not belong in jail. He certainly did not deserve to die for his offenses. And as being in jail, because he was put in with the general population instead of put in the med ward, he was not given his medication. His symptoms escalated, and he wasn't a violent person, but he ended up hitting somebody, and that just put him more and more into the system. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi,
Next, we have Robin Sales.
yes, I cede my time to Paloma Serna.
Paloma,
Look,
can you hear us?
yes, so would I have 4 minutes then?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. So I would like to know, when is Kelly Martinez going to stop putting in the media that she sends her condolence to impacted families? My daughter's been dead for 4.5 years. Not once have you or William Gore or anyone has reached out to send your condolence. Instead, we received calls of lies, how it was Elisa's fault. The initial call we got was she took drugs and overdose. And also too, since you are teaching about training tonight, I would like to know, have you started the compassion training? Have you also started teaching your deputies and medical personnel on falls? I would like to know also, when have you started training your deputies and medical staff on handoff and endorsement practices? And also too, I would like to know, when will you start scanning your deputies? All I heard tonight was it's always the person that's incarcerated, or it was their family members. Everyone in the world does drugs, but your deputies, your employees. You need to stop shifting the blame onto our loved ones. Also, too, I would like to know, have there's been any new updates on the cows and seawall protocol? And also, too, since I have a couple seconds, I'm waiting for you to not only reach out to us, but to other families. When are we going to have our meetings? It's been June 28th that the federal judge said that you will meet with us. We are still waiting to hear from you. We're not calling you. You need to call us. Thank you.
Next, Yusuf Miller.
Is that 2 minutes or 1 minute? What is it? 2 minutes, okay. My name is Yusuf Miller, North County Equity and Justice Coalition and Saving Lives in Custody campaign. And now I would like to echo the sentiments of people who've already spoken. Why don't you discuss the deputies who are involved in drugs? I mean, we all know about it. It was in the press, it's in the news. We all know about it. So there's no need to hide it. We just need to know that we're being transparent here. So there were deputies that had drug-related offenses, and we need to know about that, and we need to be transparent. There's no need to hide from it. My main topic that I wanted to say right now is we've just passed United Against Hate Week here in San Diego County. And we know that the highest hate crime against race is anti-Black, and the highest hate crime against religion is anti-Semitic. My question to you is why, and then we know that the Sheriff's Department stops from their stop data, stops Black and brown 3 to 4 times more than their white counterparts. So my question to you is, why don't you have, or why do you reject the local policy that says that sheriff deputies will not belong to extremist or racist organizations? We've asked you before. You said that you don't have any, well, you said that there was a higher ordinance from the state that says that they shouldn't belong, but we're looking for something local, since we have a local issue from your office that says you're sensitive to what's going on in the community, and we don't have it. And you won't, from the last we talked to you, you won't give it. Maybe you think that you don't have any data to support making a statement like that or a policy like that. But when we asked you about scanning the deputies long before you accepted to do it now, you said that there was no data of deputies bringing in drugs, and look where we are. So please evaluate making this policy for our deputies.
Next, we have Darwin Fishman.
All right, good evening. I'm back. Based on the presentation of Sheriff Martinez, I'm glad we got a public record. And I just wanted to say, for Sheriff Martinez, with your presentation, it does sound clearly like you have gone through county council and you're saying what is safe, and it's clearly an attempt not to risk any liability. But there's a fundamental contradiction in which you said during your presentation and what is currently going on in San Diego County jails. Clearly, all the dead bodies and lawsuits refute your presentation. If all those programs were up and running and smoothly, and the sheriff's department was doing everything that you said, then obviously we wouldn't be here now. I would also just humbly suggest, by starting with the obvious about the San Diego County jails and how badly your agency has done with running them, and acknowledging, as what previous speakers have said, what's already in the public domain, admitting to that and taking responsibility clearly would help to build trust with the community and that we're connected to the same reality. If you're running a hospital and you have a high rate of preventable deaths, the highest rate in the state, then it would not be wise to start a presentation about your innovative care for diabetes or a cure for foot fungus. You have to, on some level, take responsibility for what your agency has done. I would ask how many of also the programs you titled in your presentation started since you were elected as sheriff. And it just begs the question, since you've been with the sheriff's department for so long and part of the executive team, what have you done while you've been there? What did you advocate for? Why not if I start by talking about the culture of your agency, and one where deputies will allow people that are sick or injured to just die, and what you've done to change the attitudes and beliefs of the people that work under you so that they can properly care for and take care of the people that they're responsible for. Thank you.
Next, we have Beverly Alanjari.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I think that if there were more working cameras and body cams on deputies, that people would act a lot differently and more responsibly. And cameras are cheap, they're not expensive. I think that would be a very good idea to have more cameras. Please, make a change, please.
Next, we have Diana Serna.
The first thing I think that Kelly Martinez should have done when she came into the room was acknowledge all the families. But once again, she can't do that. Second, Kelly, I truly believe that your deputies are a reflection of their management. We go and rally outside of your jails, outside of your office, and all of your deputies are always laughing at us, telling us, oh, about the stuff. And why do they have those attitudes? It's because you have the exact same attitude. You can come and sit right there and put on this slideshow for CLERB, but it's just a show. It's just a show for the media to say, hey, I'm doing something. We know that you don't know what you're doing in your position. During a class action lawsuit, the judge said the judge would not let you be deposed because your attorney said that you didn't know anything. So you don't know what's going on in your jails. And I love how that you keep putting the blame on, it's the mail that's coming in. No, it's your deputies. You've been refusing to scan them. Until what? The media kept pushing it on you? Oh, okay, so you had to give in? Or your attorneys made you give in? We stand outside of your jails, especially Central Jail. Your deputies just walk right in with their bags. It's so funny how schools nowadays make students come in with their clear backpacks, and your deputies are coming in with all these bags, and they could just be bringing in drugs. So I really hope that you have a switch flips on in your brain, and you actually want to help the citizens of San Diego and do your job. Thank you.
Next, we have Diana Sanchez.
Yes, I just want to say that nothing can bring back my daughter. You know, nothing's gonna be able to bring my daughter back. I want justice for her. Like I said, I want transparency, Kelly Martinez. I hope that what you're saying is true. And I hope that, you know, that I speak for my daughter. I am her advocate. I am her voice. You know, I do have to take my 6-year-old grandson, Abraham, and I have to tell him how much his mother loved him. He will never get to see her again. And I have to take him to that graveyard, and I have to remind him of her and bring her memory every day and let him know how much, you know, she loved him. But I hope that, you know, there is transparency and that you do implement these changes, because it is not fair that she did not get the medical care that she needed. And like I said, addict lives matter. It doesn't matter who it is. They deserve the best medical care possible. And she was arrested by a sheriff's deputy for drugs. She should have been given a ticket, but because she was an addict, she was treated. She was illegally arrested over a warrant that was expired. That was not right. Just because she looked the way she looked, that is not right. We're all human beings, and just because she looked the way she looked, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The sheriffs treated her wrong. She was violated her constitutional. It's just wrong. And I just hope that you do something about it, be about it, talk the talk, you better walk the walk, you better do something about it. This is not okay. And we, the residents of San Diego County, will not go away. And I hope, CLERB, you do something about it, because if this was one of your loved ones, you would be affected the same way. I hope you do something. Thank you.
Next, we have Jennifer Schmidt.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
961 days ago on Valentine's Day, 2022, my dad was supposed to be taken to the hospital. He had dementia, never even a traffic ticket. They illegally arrested him and put him in your jail. And I know during your campaign, you promised a whole bunch of stuff about transparency. And the minute you got into office, you rejected and retract all of that. So it's real hard to believe it, but I know the courts just ordered in my case and ordered that every deputy, every supervisor is liable for violating his civil rights, for not giving him the medical care he needed, whether it was drugs that you guys think he was on or not. I just want complete transparency. I don't want to have to sue the county in order to know what happened to my loved one. I don't want to have to go 3 years without getting any kind of answers. That is ridiculous. If we killed the deputy, it would be all of the 6 o'clock news, but we have to sue you guys in order to know what happened to our loved ones. And I feel if you lie, you're hiding. You guys lied from the minute the press release was released about my dad, and it's just ridiculous. I just want transparency. I want honesty, and I want you to say what you mean and mean what you say. If you're not going to do it, just say you're not going to do it so we don't hold you and expect you to do it. Thank you.
Next, we have Paloma Serna.
Yes, also too. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I see 24 seconds. I don't know why, but you know, I wish, you, Kelly, would respect the family, the impacted family that you send your condolence to by not having your back turned toward them during the meeting when you were speaking. Because all of this applies to the community. We are the community. The people that are in that room, they've put you in that place. The people. You are responsible as much as William Gore for all these deaths. You need to know what's going on in your jail. You used to work in the detention before. You are very aware. You know how deputies, the culture of the jails, we need you to really put your action, the words you say into action. We need to see change. You keep stating that all these deaths did not happen under your watch. Yes, they did. But if you're a changed, mature person now, because you've been in this field for many years, you will at least have compassion, because I'm sure you have grandchildren. You have maybe siblings that have children. And God forbid that, any of your relatives would be addicted to drugs and end up in the jail. And like was stated earlier, all we want is accountability and transparency. And two, Vivian Granero, she died like 2 or 3 years later after Elisa Serna, exactly the same way. And you said Elisa deserved better. Well, so did she, and she was under your watch. I would like to know, have you gave the DA, Viviana Granero, her report, your investigation report, so maybe the DA could press charges? Let's not let the statute of limitation run out.
Next, we have Zoom user.
Hello?
We can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, my name is Gina Burns, and my son Jeremy suffers from schizoaffective bipolar. Uh,
You're muted.
my son Jeremy is severely mentally ill, and he's being criminalized for acting out on his mental illness during crisis. He is got gassing on his charges, but he's not being medicated. He has not been coming out of his cell. You guys have him in green. My son is severely mentally ill, and nothing's being done. I've been told when I call that he never wants to come out. He's dealing with feces. And if your clinicians know anything about mental illness, these are the signs of severe mental crisis. Also in 2018, my son, after 7 months being in the hole in crisis, was deemed incompetent to stand trial. And he was supposed to go to San Bernardino to Patton to get restored. It took 3 months. By the time he got there, it was a year. He was totally exacerbated. And then the first day he got there, he told me he doesn't take his medication. They decided to take him down. Someone hurt their knee. And who do they blame? They blame Jeremy. By the fourth day, he was back at West Valley Detention Facility. And furthermore, he went to prison. He was allowed to take a plea. And what happened to the incompetency to stand trial in San Diego? And he was sent there to get restored. It's a kangaroo court. It's a kangaroo system. It's a lie. And another thing, after he came out of prison, they paroled him.
Your time has expired. Thank you. Chair Pinter, that concludes our request to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. Sheriff Martinez, did you want a couple of minutes to respond?
Yeah, I just want to speak to all of you in appreciation for coming forward today and giving me your telling me how you feel, what your thoughts are. I'm glad I had the opportunity to present today. I think it's long overdue, and I apologize for that. There are changes that have been made and that continue to come, and they will continue to come. I'm very committed and invested in changing our incarceration, the way we incarcerate people in San Diego County. My team is as well. I think we're really going in a great direction, and I continue working with the CLERB. So thank you so much for tonight.
Thank you for being here, and you are welcome back anytime. We'd love to see you here again. Let us know if there's a particular, I know I already specified a particular topic that I'd be interested in hearing about, but if there's something else that you or any of your assistants want to come and tell us about, we always welcome the presentation. So thank you for being here and for staying for the comments as well. Thank you. Okay, we will move to the executive officer's report. Mr. Kalina.
Thank you. Again, for those that have not met me yet or have heard from me yet, my name is Brett Kalina. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am the new executive officer of CLERB. I didn't say much last time because that was day one on the job. I feel like I've had a little bit of time now, so I just wanted to follow up on a couple things and give you some idea of what I've been doing just in this first month. I've had the opportunity to spend a lot of one-on-one time with the staff. And I think it's important for everyone, and especially the board, to understand how understaffed CLERB has been for a considerable amount of time. The team really has done an incredible job considering how many bodies they're short, and people have stepped up and taken new roles while all the people were understaffed. And so they've really done a good job. And I know the board understands that, but I don't think they realize how much the staff really has done especially over these last 6 months. Good news on that front, we have a new special investigator starting this month. So I'm excited about that. And we are also in second round of interviews for another special investigator. So we're getting there, and hopefully that'll really ease the staff, especially the investigators. In this first month, Sheriff is no longer here, but she was one of the first persons that welcomed me to come and meet with her and talk about how and what my vision was and what my priorities might be. And I thank her for doing that. She really was one of those first people to reach out to me. And I will say that even as of just today, she didn't bring this up, but we signed a memorandum of understanding, which moves forward prior memorandums of understanding, which allows CLERB special investigators, including myself and the entire special investigator staff, to be notified when there is a death in custody, and that we can go there and observe and make that process and help to make that even more transparent, so that the board understands that we're there, that we're participating in that process. And I thank Sheriff Martinez for quickly reviewing that. She's the one who signed it. She's the one who cleared that off. And that there was some restrictions on who could appear prior. And she has basically released that to me and the staff to be able to respond. So I think that's a great thing. I've been able to meet with the probation chief and the deputy chief of probation. I've met with all the liaisons with the sheriff's department and the probation department. I've met with District 4 supervisor already. And so I'm well on my way to getting to all the people that I need to meet. And I know I've got a lot more. And I know I've got a lot of outreach and community stuff that we are getting to. But I will tell you that one of the things that I think is really important is that we prioritize our investigations first. Those investigations are the backbone to what CLERB is about. It's the way that we can show the transparency. It's the way that we can show accountability. And so my priority here as we're getting started is just make sure that these investigations are as well done and articulate and fact-based and allow us to make those recommendations to the board, and then allows us also then to justify those when we ever have to go to civil service. So it really is the number one priority. So I know already that Lynn, the supervisory investigator, and her team have been doing a great job, and I look forward to really getting to know what they do and get our new investigators on board so that we can just really start working with those different liaisons to work on how we can better share information and quicker, make that process as much quicker. The next thing we need to work on is our processes. We have been working with 2 administrative staff for the last 6 months. They have been doing everything, and they've done a really great job. Chief Deputy Hickok and Aurora, but they have done so much to fill in those spots. And so I really thank them for like keeping the ship afloat over this time. It really has been a very difficult job. And so I know that now me being here will ease some of those things in. And hopefully we can work with the Board of Supervisors to get some additional bodies to help out. And then the next thing I really want to focus on is education. I think education for the board, education for the investigators and the staff, education for the community. And I really want to focus on how we do things. And I think that even starts with the board understanding everything of what the CLERB staff does and what it means to do one of these investigations and how much product that they have to actually review when we get that information from the liaisons. It is very extensive, and I think it's really important for the board to understand all the different things that they have to do before they come and give you their recommendations. So I think that will be helpful for the board. I think learning for the community can learn that. I think we can learn back and forth from the liaison. So I think that's really important. I think part of that also is having the board members be able to have the access to the trainings that the sheriffs and the probation are willing to give us. That means whether it's drive-alongs, whether that is detention facility visits. I think those are great ways that the board can really learn what they're doing. And then once we get that down, once we get those processes down, I think that's when we can really focus on getting some more bodies for staff to work on outreach and engagement, communications, programming, those things that we can then take back and take all the things we've learned and get that out to the community. So that's where I sit now 1 month in, just to give you all an idea of where I'm at. And it's an ever learning process. So I hope we can continue on that. And that's about it.
Thank you. And just one quick follow-up to that is that we have had a couple times on the agenda, and then other things have come up that have been more pressing that we've had to put on the agenda. A presentation from our lead investigator, Lynn, was going to present to us, to the CLERB board and to the public, how the investigators go about their work, what they have, the questions they have to ask, the limitations that they have, how our jurisdiction or lack of jurisdiction plays into that role, and that will be on an upcoming agenda. Like I said, we've tried to do it a couple of times, and then other things have come up that we've had to move things around. But I think that would be very helpful to the public. We as CLERB hear a lot of this in the closed session when we're reviewing the reports. Sometimes when I hear the frustrations from the public, like during public comment, it's difficult because I understand why they don't have access to some of this information, but I think it would be very helpful for the public to understand that as well. So we will definitely try and get that on an upcoming agenda. Items B, C, D, are you going to handle those, Brett, or is that something Norris is going to handle tonight?
Yeah,
You
I
got
can
them?
handle
Okay,
those.
okay.
Really, we've put the information
Thank
on
you.
the website. And really the most important thing is that we had 10 new cases for the month. We had 14 closed cases for September, and we have currently 128 total cases open. Of those, we have 30 death cases and 6 discharges of firearm without complaint. So those are the important numbers, but those are also all on the statistics that are on the webpage and some of the documents outside the meeting room.
Any board questions for Brett before we move to the next item? Yes, go ahead, Ariana.
I forgot what happened with the inspections. Is there an update with that?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. The liaisons have been great to work with us. We are going to implement facility inspections starting in 2025. I don't know if if we'll start right away in January, but it'll be in the spring timeframe, and we will be hitting at a minimum the facilities that have the most complaints in front of CLERB.
Can you share to the public what the inspections are for?
Well, we have a written document already that I don't know if that's public or not, but I'm not sure. I don't think it is.
I don't think it is because yeah. I'm sorry, Ellen, did you want to respond? I can't see behind me.
If it's not public, then it is on you can Google it and find it when you look for facility inspections. So if it's a draft, that may need to be addressed.
We will check that out and figure out what's available.
In that case, we will be following the parameters of the things that we can and cannot do under that inspection. But the liaison department with the sheriff's department or sheriff's office, excuse me, has opened that up to us to start beginning that in 2025. And that has not happened before. So we are looking forward to just starting that process and learning a lot from it.
Yes, Mr. Wilson.
Sir, is the intent still to have one of your investigators as their primary duty to overlook the inspections?
Yeah, I think that was a plan a while back. I don't know that we are ready for that to happen at this point in time. So we're going to have to internally work out how we're going to get this done. I'm not sure yet. We haven't set up a plan, but that was the plan before. I don't know that we're ready for that now.
Any other questions for Brett before we move on? That was actually one of my questions because previously we had looked to, I thought we had talked about hiring somebody new. No, yes, we had at one point talked about hiring an additional person for that. So that you answered my question. We still are working that piece out. We'll move to item number 7, board chairs report. First of all, I wanted to welcome our new board member, Adele Fasano. Thank you for being here. And I hope, is there anything questions or anything you'd like to say? I don't want to, okay. Thank you. We will, when we get into closed session, you may have questions about some of these. I also, I had questions for you about the facility inspections, but those were sort of addressed. One of the things that I wanted to remind CLERB staff, Naras and Aurora, I think at one point, excuse me? I'm sorry, I can't hear you, so please.
Question for number 6.
You have a question for number 6?
Taking public comments?
No, we aren't taking public comments on that because it's not a board action. Yep. Okay. Where was I? Just a reminder that I would like for our CLERB staff to be in touch with NACOL about other civilian law enforcement boards that have oversight over medical. So I meant to remind you before, but while I'm thinking about it now, I wanted to remind you that it would be very helpful for us to know. I have not been able to find it on my own. I have searched for whether there are civilian oversight boards that have jurisdiction over medical. So I think it would be helpful. Yes, Bonnie.
We can ask people when we're at the conference if their board has oversight.
That's right. You're on your way to you're on your way to NACOL. So thank you.
2 weeks, we'll ask.
Appreciate that.
I've done the research. I've been working on it as well.
Okay,
and I
great.
have yet to find a Civilian Oversight Board that does have.
So it wasn't just me not being able to find it. Okay, at night, I would really appreciate it if the members that are going to NACOL can ask that question and see if we can get an answer. I think that would be helpful as we are asking CAO, FGG, board supervisors to give us that oversight if we had some models to look at. That is it for board chair's report, and we will go to new business. This is the discussion of the July 15 letter from the Sheriff's Department. It was attachment E. I believe it went out in the email to everyone who receives the agenda. I think I'm turning it over to our counsel. Ellen, do you want to report on the letter and what it means for our operations?
Yes, thank you, Chair Pintar, members of the board. Welcome, Member Fasano, to our board. And I apologize for not being there in person. I have a very bad cold and a cough, but I will do my best to do this remotely with you. CLERB has had a practice of making findings against the Sheriff's Department as a whole, as an entity, without identifying any actual misconduct on the part of any deputy or custodial deputy. And the most common has been making sustained findings for overdoses, drug overdoses for people in custody resulting in death. And those are matters that CLERB has jurisdiction to investigate without a signed citizen's complaint. So on July 15th, Chair Pintar received a letter and staff did, and we've gone over it and reviewed it. And basically the Sheriff's Department through its liaison, Lieutenant Perkins, has objected to CLERB making findings against the Sheriff's Department as an entity, claiming that the CLERB jurisdiction is only against peace officers or custodial officers of the department for certain claims like excessive force, discrimination, false reporting, criminal conduct, search and seizure, and that type of stuff that's enumerated in Charter Section 606, which serves as kind of CLERB's constitution or foundational document. I have reviewed the letter of July 15th in depth, as well as looking at all of CLERB's foundational documents that include Charter Section 606, the County Administrative Code that applies to CLERB, which are Section 340 through 340.15, as well as CLERB's rules and regulations, which are promulgated and discussed and drafted by CLERB, approved by the CLERB board, but final approval rests with the Board of Supervisors. And so based upon all of my review, I do concur with the Sheriff's Department that the plain meaning and the language of all of the foundational documents is really geared more towards findings of misconduct against peace officers and custodial officers. So the department as an entity is not mentioned. So also the rules and regs talk about all the processes of investigation that CLERB does, and those two are geared toward custodial and deputies. However, as counsel for CLERB and working with you all and CLERB staff and CLERB's status as a civilian oversight board, CLERB is in a very special position to be aware of and privy to complaints and allocations that cannot be attributed to individual deputies and custodial officers, even given all of the CLERB investigators' hard works and attempts to find deputies or custodial officers that could be considered responsible or subject officers. And some of the allegations can be construed as systemic or as department-wide. And again, custody deaths due to drug overdoses with drugs brought into the detention facilities in whatever manner come to mind as being those types of situations where oftentimes it cannot be attributed to an individual deputy or custodial officer. And as such, CLERB would be remiss to not bring these types of concerns that are enumerated in the complaints it receives from citizens, as well as what it gets to investigate without a complaint, to the attention of the public and stakeholders and the Sheriff's Department, amongst other county departments and agencies. So as a result, I just wanted to bring to the board's attention some different options that would be legally defensible that we could pursue on a go-forward basis. The first one, which in my experience here with CLERB, I've done some research and found that CLERB doesn't do, which is having the board come up with resolutions that would be discussed by a board and approved by you all in open session. And a resolution is basically a document, a written finding by the board, but not a sustained finding as that is mentioned in the CLERB rules and regs, that states a policy or an opinion of CLERB and is then discussed and approved by the board in open session. That is one way that the board could go about it. Those resolutions could be promulgated, approved by you all, and then sent to the various other departments and agencies of the county, which would include the grand jury, could include the sheriff's department, the probation department, the district attorney's office, as well as the county departments of health, which is another department that has responsibility for detention facility oversight. And in fact, under the County Administrative Code section 340.15, CLERB, as well as other county departments, all have the duty to cooperate with each other and coordinate their activities. So a resolution would be a great way for CLERB to take the knowledge and what it learns in investigations and be able to transfer that into a resolution and publicize it with its brother and sister agencies and to the public. Another option would be letters of concern that could be issued by the CLERB board, and that would pertain to matters where there are no identifiable sheriff's deputies or custodial officers that would use the normal process of doing an investigation and making findings. A third option could be doing addendums to investigations that would not have sustained findings against the department, but would also be a vehicle for raising concerns and other issues that come up in the investigations that cannot be attributed to the sheriff's deputies or custodial officers individually. So those are kind of what's on the table. And I will point out and thank you, Mr. Kleiner, for bringing to our attention about the inspections, because that may be a very good way for CLERB to also have another vehicle for sharing concerns that it discovers with its inspections with stakeholders in the public. Another source is the Sheriff's Department's Detention Services Bureau's Manual of Policies and Procedures, number B38, Facility Inspections, that they also require biennial inspections by the Board of State and Community Corrections, BSCC, which Sheriff Martinez mentioned earlier, annual inspections by the County Grand Jury of detention facilities, and for health and nutrition, as well as health and sanitary conditions in detention facilities, annual inspections by the county health departments. So these are partner agencies that you could share information through your facility inspections or that come up in your investigations or via citizen complaints that could be addressed either in the resolution, a letter of concern, or an addendum to an existing investigation. So I just want to open that up. I've discussed this with CLERB staff already, and they are anxious for any direction that you may give us. And what we would like is some input and feedback from you all on the board, and then we can come back with whatever preferred method or methods you would like to pursue at the next board meeting. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ellen. Are there any questions or comments from the board? I'd like to do that first before we go to public comment. Yes, Mr. Wilson, and then Bonnie.
The other agencies that are responsible for conducting the inspections, do they have a process in place where a citizen can lodge a complaint with them or a concern with them?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything more you want to add to that, Bonnie? Is there something else?
Well, the grand jury has a complaint system. I mean, that's one of the major functions of the grand jury. But the only mandate for the grand jury is to inspect every facility in the county. That's the only thing written in the law.
So if there's a specific concern that we are wanting to bring to their attention, though, couldn't we do it via a letter of concern or a resolution? Couldn't we do that?
We could possibly submit a complaint to the grand jury. That would be the vehicle, would be the complaint process. And then if they felt that it was valid, you know, the whole grand jury has to vote. They need 12 people to say, yes, this is a valid complaint. Now we're going to start an investigation into the complaint.
Okay. Other board comments and questions before yes, Ariana.
For the different options, so those are in response to how we were responding to the sheriff. Are those also other ways that we can respond even if we don't have jurisdiction? Like, for example, medical, like if they're not.
I don't know what the effect of that would be because that has been their response when we have
Right.
commented on things or asked questions about things that we do not have jurisdiction over because it's not part of our rules and regulations. Wasn't part of the original ballot measure that created us.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know what the, yeah.
We don't
right,
know the
right,
impact. Okay,
right.
thank you.
Mhm. Yes, GI.
Sort of to satellite off what you said and what Bonnie said, in addition to the grand jury, is it possible for us, and I'm just asking a question, I don't expect an answer, for us to go with a letter to concern, say to the health department about unsanitary conditions or issues with, you know, food sanitation? I mean, is it possible for us to go to other departments with letters of concern?
I don't know, but I believe that is something we could assign to CLERB staff to come back and tell us what those options are. Go ahead, Bonnie, and then I'll go.
When I was on the grand jury and we went to the detention, we looked in their kitchens. Our foreperson was a chef. So he went and would open the refrigerators. And what he found in those refrigerators, I can't say because it's confidential, but it was bad. We also went to the food preparation facility and the laundry. And so it's not just the detention, it's anything that has to do with the detention facilities.
That's part of the facility, though. That's the whole facility.
Well, it sounded like you were asking, GI was asking for something different to me. But that,
Well, I would
Just
just,
to clarify, I don't know what I was asking. All right. So, but I was trying
that
to,
happens a bit.
yeah, well, what can I say?
what I heard you ask is whether there was an opportunity to raise these questions or ask these questions of the 3 or 4 or 5 agencies that the sheriff pointed out in her presentation have the ability to provide oversight, including inspection services. That's what I heard you say. And my response to that was, I don't know the answer to how we submit that information to those different boards, but I'm sure that is something that Brett and the CLERB staff can come back and report to us. What I was going to say is that we have done this already on a number of occasions in the past. We have issued a letter of concern when we've come across something or we've seen a pattern of things that we think are troublesome that we don't have. The investigators couldn't come back to us and say, we see a specific policy violation by a sworn deputy. Again, we only have jurisdiction over specific policy violations made by sworn deputies. When we didn't see, they couldn't point to something and sustain a finding, we said, here's something that we've been seeing, or here's something that we saw, and we think it's a problem, and we would like to recommend a policy change, or we would like to recommend the sheriff's department look at this. We have done those letters of concern in the past. What we haven't done, and we've only done it once, and I think it's kind of a staffing matter too, and that is we have only once or twice since I've been here done it with a media release. So released it not just to the sheriff's department, but to more of the public. Like, here's what we're finding, here's what we're seeing, and making it a bigger, beyond just our board and the folks that happen to come to our meetings and hear it. So I feel like we could do that with a letter of concern. And the same thing is with the resolution. I mean, city councils, SANDAG, any governing body does resolutions all the time. It's the same thing. In Congress, it's called a sense of Congress resolution. Like, we as Congress believe that this is a problem. We could do the same thing with a resolution. It would take an action. It wouldn't have the same punitive ramifications as a sustained finding, which is what the sheriff's department is objecting to. We can't sustain a finding if it's not attached to someone in particular. But we could say it is our sense as CLERB, because we've been reviewing these cases and we've seen this happen many times, that this is a problem and it deserves some attention. And then I mean, we could do a little bit more than just making it between us and the sheriff's department is how I feel. But I don't know that we have to pick one or the other. We could decide at some point we want to do a resolution because we've seen it many times. It's, we see it more of a pattern. It could be a letter of concern when it relates to a particular case. So now that I've said that, I'm not sure exactly what our action needs to be at this moment, but is there any other board comments or questions as it relates to what we've talked about so far? If not, we could go to public comment and then do the board action. Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
No, I think you articulated very well. And if we can explore who we can send letters of concern to, plus also make the public aware of trends that we're seeing.
Yep. She has recommended both of these approaches as things that would be legal for us to do. They don't violate our jurisdiction. These are what she has recommended to us. If there's not any other board comments or questions, I'm going to go to public comment. How many speakers do we have requesting?
We have 4 online and 2 comments to be read.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do 3 minutes. Go ahead, Yusuf. I'm sorry. You tell me who goes first. I'm not supposed to say who goes first. You tell me. Sorry, I apologize.
Yusuf Miller, North County Equity and Justice Coalition, Saving Lives in Custody campaign. Yes, these resolutions, I think a few years ago, we as the North County Equity and Justice Coalition asked for a resolution in support of the bills that were going against supporting in custody deaths or the ending in custody deaths, and that wasn't taken seriously, and it actually never happened. But to your point about the grand jury, we have also put in a citizen's complaint to the grand jury about the failures in the medical system in the jails and for all jails, not just one particular one. So we put that in months ago. They accepted our request, and the way that system works is they're not going to tell us when they're going to start. They're just going to do it. So we have taken those steps, and I encourage, and I'm happy to hear that you guys can take that step too, to reinforce what we're doing in the families and communities. The families have also attended and still attend the BSCC meetings, the Board of State and Community Corrections, and they have a meeting tomorrow. If you didn't know, it's at 10 a.m. and it's pretty long meetings. But they do inspections on their own, and a lot of those inspections have to do with San Diego County, and we, the families, know what they're saying about us down here. So, it keeps us engaged with that, but it's open to the public. So the BSCC, we also chime in. We tell the BSCC on you guys, we do. We tell the BSCC on the Sheriff's Department, you guys, everybody, because these are our avenues besides coming here every day. So I'm glad to see that you guys also will be able to communicate and work with the BSCC and the grand jury along with us as family members, because we don't just do this, as you've seen from the people who have been here. We don't do this for play. We don't do this for pay either. We do this out of the passion in our hearts, and to see you also in those spaces will really make us feel like we're really on the same team. Now, I believe in a lot of you. I really do. And I have to see what we have of our new ED. Time will tell, but I'm willing to work with you and see what we have going on, if we can make changes. But eyes on you, and welcome.
Next, we have Paloma Serna.
Hi, yes. Paloma Serna, mother of Elisa Serna, who died November 11th in the Las Colinas jail. I'm with North County Equity and Justice Coalition and Saving Lives California and the Saving Lives in Custody campaign. Yeah, so I noticed in this letter too that a lot of the what the sheriff was complaining about how the names that you weren't attaching specific an individual in your sustain in your reports. And the thing is, what makes it difficult is that the sheriff, it would take years for them to release a deputy's name in custody death. And that's what happened in our case, where in our complaint for our litigation, we had like up to 100, I think, 100 John and Jane Does, because they refuse. And I believe a lot of it has to do with the statute of limitation, in which because we did have a criminal trial. The statute of limitation, it will run out. And that's always been a complaint when I would be in town and speak there at the CLERB meetings. But too, so I was wondering with the executive officer, I'm sorry, your name, I just don't know your name yet. He had mentioned about, Kelly Martinez had signed, a document, she wants to help, and so the thing is, earlier you had mentioned there was like 30 in custody deaths or 30 deaths. I mean, the settles, they have no answers. Nothing is, the sheriff department won't release nothing. They fight, you know, for the whole ride. They'll keep fighting and fighting. So I'm wondering if they will start releasing names, and so you guys could do your jobs, so families could get the answers that we need. It's like what Jennifer Smith had said earlier about her father, Gilbert Gill, who died at the Vista jail. We don't want to be suing, and all we want to know is what happened. What happened? And if a deputy or medical staff was involved, okay, do the right thing. If it was us, we would have been charged, tried in court and convicted in a year. It took about 4.5 years, 4 years for the criminal, 4.5 for civil. And that's awful, because then they run you through the depositions, and all they want to do in those depositions is blame the family, blame the victim. They even did a deposition on my daughter Elisa's own daughter, who was 8, and her mother Elisa didn't pass until she was 3.5 years old. So why would you do a deposition on a child? Thank you.
Next, we have a comment to be read for the record from Deidre McLeod. My name is Deidre McLeod, and I'm a constituent of Board Supervisor Joel Anderson, District 2. My pronouns are she/her. I read the July 15th letter from the Sheriff's Office, and while I may not completely understand the legal issues stated, I do understand the intent. The Sheriff's Office is cherry-picking language in order to overturn 30-plus years of precedent regarding CLERB oversight. I'm disappointed that the board accepted the unserious reasoning in this letter, because as it stands, the Sheriff's Office as a whole will never be held accountable for its culture or misconduct, neglect, and death. This is not a logical reading of the county administrative ordinance or the intent behind it. As you discussed the latest attempt by the sheriff to avoid accountability for the flow of drugs into our jails, the revolting conditions inside, and other general policies of procedures failures, I hope that you will reconsider 2 of the strongest options available to you. Renew your efforts to urge the Board of Supervisors to adopt the San Diegans for Justice recommendations, including giving CLERB auditing and monitoring powers, and publicly endorse state and federal interventions to fix San Diego jails. Next, we have individual with SURJ-NCSD.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I registered by the wrong name on Zoom. This is Tom Packard. I'm a member of Showing Up for Racial Justice North County. I'm encouraged about Ms. Gross's options. I really hope that whatever you do gets to you being able to make systems change recommendations that the sheriff has to react to. But more broadly, I'm really disturbed by the bureaucratic brush-offs and the focus on technicalities in the sheriff's response in attachment E. I couldn't find all the recommendations referred to, so I'm flying a little bit blind here, but based on what I can see, even if the CLERB lacks jurisdiction or used improper wording on some cases, the sheriff could acknowledge that the issues raised by the CLERB are real and important. And even if the CLERB doesn't have the authority in a particular case, the department could address the issues raised. If she believes that the buck stops with her, and as she said in 2023, that accountability is a driver to creating a new level of care, she should take responsibility for all those systems problems. While some might want to blame a single employee for an in-custody death due to drugs, the sheriff should know that ultimately she, through her leadership and authority, is responsible for keeping illicit drugs out of the jails. Current changes such as random checks won't be enough. Just technically, according to my understanding of the Penal Code Section 830.1, the sheriff is in fact a peace officer. So unless you all have better ideas, and I really like Ms. Gross's suggestions and I hope you follow through, but you could consider submitting your recommendations, substituting Sheriff Martinez wherever it says the Sheriff Department or SDSD, and make any other necessary wording changes to reflect her as the person ultimately responsible for the problem indicated. If complaints need to be amended, give the complainants the sheriff's badge number and have them insert her name. But beyond the legal technicalities, the sheriff as a leader should be taking the initiative to make the needed changes. And by the way, please post at your website all your formal recommendations and the status of each, or tell me where they are and I'll apologize for not looking hard enough for them. Thanks for your attention.
Next, we have Denise Settles.
Hi, yeah, I'd like to echo the previous speaker. It is disturbing to me that as an organization that the citizens, it's supposed to be reactionary to citizen concerns, where citizens already and the families already feel like you don't have enough teeth to do the justice that is required with your investigations to get justice for our family members. And to investigate those and provide the answers that the families are seeking, that the sheriff's office is now seeking to limit your powers even further. That is disturbing. It would seem to me that Sheriff Martinez would welcome suggestions for systemic changes that would both make her department stronger and help restore the confidence of the citizens. I am looking at the webpage of the Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board, and it does say on there, and I have read the charter, but not in complete depth, but my understanding is that the charter does allow for the CLERB to give recommendations to the sheriff's department, and the recommendations. It seems silly that they would have to be naming a particular person, but I think it's brilliant to be naming the sheriff as the buck as the person that is ultimately responsible for the system and the sheriff's department. as if a person has to be named. So I will leave it at that. I thank you for listening, and I hope that some of these creative ways of addressing this issue can be pursued. And I don't think this was the intention of the County Board of Supervisors or the public when CLERB was developed. So I think this is also an issue that should be pushed back for the County Board of Supervisors in any interactions that the CLERB has with them as well. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Next, we'll have Darwin Fishman.
All right, thank you. I want to jump in again and say that it's interesting that what you see for CLERB, that when you make a difference and that you have the novel idea and pursue for the in-custody deaths that the sheriff's department are blaming on drugs, drug overdoses, that you still hold them responsible, and finding that through the charges and the investigation, that you get this reaction from them. And as Tom and others have suggested, instead of trying to deal with the problem as is, they're coming at you for trying to find a way to get them to take it seriously, which is really surreal on a certain level. We hope they'd have more vested interest about taking care of their own house, their issues, than trying to go after the civilian oversight for doing their job. With that being said, I did want to add, I have had experience when I was on the old CRB with this, when we ran into some roadblocks, and we did exactly what you were discussing, your CLERB members you shared, which is we did find in our charter that we could do press releases, and we also did letters to elected officials, and we did find that was very effective. It did up the stakes, and people were worried about the response and going public and what it would look like. But at the end of the day, it did help move the needle on some core issues we were working on. And by doing that, it also opens up the public space and knowing that this is a real issue and we're concerned about it. And we're at Loggerjam. In the case where I was working on it, the San Diego Police Department wasn't interested in it. They were trying to sweep it under the rug. And this allowed it to become part of the public discourse, which held them accountable for it, because now people were aware of it. So those are really important techniques and strategies that you can utilize. And there's a history of this, certainly as you referenced other agencies that have done this. So I hope you talk about that and pursue those avenues, because at the end of the day, if you can find ways for the sheriff's department to take the drugs getting into the jails more seriously, and internally looking at their own sheriff deputies and staff as part of that process. And if you can use techniques and strategies, not just with your case review, but also going above and beyond with things like press releases and including elected officials with letters and going to their meetings, then that's a win-win. The community will have more trust, and you'll be doing more of exactly what your job is for the civilian oversight of the sheriff's department. Thank you.
Chair Pinter, that concludes our request to speak.
Okay. So I was just asking Brett, when I remembered when we put this on the agenda, our intent was to have a discussion tonight, hear from the public, and then we will actually do an action item on this for next month. That was my recollection. Is that your recollection too? Bonnie and Nadia, you were on that call as well. So there is no need for an action tonight. We heard from the public. We will talk to staff after. Can we do that? Communicate with staff about what we want to bring back?
Yes.
We don't need to take an action tonight. Ellen, do we need to take an action tonight about what staff can bring back to us next month, or can we have that discussion between now and next month?
No, actually, unless you want to have another board meeting, this needs to be conducted in open session, Chair Pintar. So the agenda title was just to give staff direction.
Okay.
So if you could just enumerate some areas that you all would like us to look into. I think you've already made from the board members' comments some ideas. We can bring back a template of a resolution. We can bring back the letter of concern idea. And do that. And if we need some more direction, we'll get it from you right now.
And then do we need to vote on it? Do we need to take an action? We can just give staff direction without a board vote. Is that what you're
Yes, we
saying?
do not
Okay.
need formal board action.
Okay.
We just need to make sure that we have enough information to bring back what you all want.
Okay, Mr. Wilson.
I would also recommend that we take some of Dr. Fishman's suggestions in terms of press releases and maybe joint resolutions with other entities that we can partner with on some of these issues.
Okay.
Just a recommendation, but
Sure.
I like some of those ideas.
Okay, so staff, do you need us to go through exactly what we're asking from you again, or do you feel like you have it based on what we've talked about tonight? So it sounds like we've asked about someone looking into what it would take for us to submit some of these suggestions to the boards in like the grand jury and the other boards that have, or agencies that have jurisdiction over the department. That was one thing. We already have draft resolutions and letters that was part of our attachments tonight, so I don't think we need any other additions to that. Brett, I guess I would ask you, and this was one of my questions. We haven't done more press release type announcements because we just really haven't had the staffing capacity for it, I suppose. I would
Yeah.
like for you to come back to us next month and tell us how we would manage that, if it's something we wanted to do, if we were to pass a resolution or a letter of concern.
Well, I think all those things can be done.
Okay.
And we have the ability, either as chaired
Yeah.
or to pass down to me as the
Mhm.
EO. The issue has been, we don't have a direct relationship with the communications with the county because there's some conflict of interest there. And so we would need to,
Okay.
best thing to happen is we need to bring someone on that would work with communications. That would be the best thing to really get things moving forward. And so that may take some time, but we can still do that in the interim.
Yeah, I think it's tough to imagine that we're going to be able to bring on a full-time person to do it, but we have managed between Naris and I in the past with Paul and now with you, now that you're here, we can get something together and then we can work with the county communication staff. They help us clean it up, make sure it's grammatically correct, help us get it out to the media. So I think we have the ability to do it internally. With that in mind, Ellen, is there anything else you need me to ask of staff before we close up this item and bring it back for next month?
No, I think that you've answered everything that I've had from a legal standpoint, and I will work with staff in whatever capacity they need me to get this back to you all.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we will move on to item 8B, the proposed board meeting calendar. Is that Naris or Mr. Kleina?
I'll handle it.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, we, as all you know, because we've communicated many times over the last month, finally have come to a date and time that works for all of the board, which is the first Thursday of the month going forward. So we will put out a calendar soon. It's the one and only time where we have this room all reserved to ourselves. And so that will be the date going forward. Our hope is that at least for the January, that we can get enough cases done by December's meetings so that we don't have to worry about deadlines, so that we can maybe take a recess at the beginning of January as well.
Great. Thank you. I don't think we need any action, or do we need an action item, Ellen? No, we don't? Okay.
Yes, I think we should have a motion.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the proposed board meeting calendar for 2025 that has this meeting in this room on the first Thursday of the month? GI is the first, I'm sorry, makes the motion and Bonnie as the second. Okay. Can you please call the roll, Bonnie? Yes.
Vice Chair Nadia Kinayu,
Yes.
Secretary Bonnie Kank, yes. Dr. Brown, Ariana Federico Madrigal,
Yes.
J.I. Wilson,
Yes.
Adele Pisano.
Yes.
Okay, so that passed. We're good.
Very good. Okay, item 8C, is that you also, Brett? Or do you want me to, you go ahead.
Yes, so I'm gonna, we are working on a community survey that's, NARS is really working to get that out. We were hoping to get that out sometime very soon. I don't know if we'll have enough time to have just it ready by the next November meeting, but the big goal would be to get community input on what we should be focusing on for 2025. That would also give me time to meet with all of you, meet with the staff to really focus on what should be our priorities for 2025 and how can we set achievable goals in that process as well. And so we would like to, come into 2025 with some of that information ready to share with the board.
So, Naris, this is the question for you. When do you think you'll be able to get that community survey out so we know when we can expect to bring it back to the board? Is that going to be get it out next month and then we would vote on it in December?
I'm working currently with the County Communication Office and FG3 on finalizing the survey, and it's a process actually that has to go through multiple phases for approval before we have the community engagement page live. I anticipate that the page with the survey to be live by mid of October. We can just have it open for 2 months. By December meeting, we can have everything compiled to the board to make motions and decide which are the priorities for 2025. And of course, once the page is live, we will make sure that we will share with the community and stakeholders actually using all kind of, platforms, social media, press releases, of course, the blast through Gov Delivery, and of course, our website.
Very good. And Ellen, is there any reason why the board can't see that what's come in from the community prior to the meeting, or do we have to wait for that to be made public as part of the agenda?
No, the board can receive it earlier, but it will need to be made public on or before the date of the board meeting where it will be considered. So as long as you put it in the agenda package that goes out and goes online, that should be fine.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we need a motion for that? I don't think we do, but tell me.
No, and one more thing, just out of caution, is that you should not discuss amongst yourself any of the questions on the survey, any of the contents of the survey at all, because that would be a violation of the Brown Act.
Very good. Everyone heard that, right? Okay, thank you. There's nothing under unfinished business, correct? And we will move to number 10, board member comments. Does anyone have comments to make before we move to our sheriff and probation liaisons? Okay, I just wanted to thank CLERB staff, investigators, staff who've been working pretty understaffed for the last several months without an executive officer who really was doing a little bit of the investigating and a little bit of admin. So I know you've, Mr. Klein mentioned it earlier, and I meant to mention it during the board chair's report, and then I got distracted by something else. But thank you for all your extra work, and hopefully we are going to be staffed up a little bit more very soon, and that will ease a little bit of the burden. So thank you for your work. It's very appreciated. Now we will go to the board member query for our sheriff and probation liaisons. Hello, welcome.
Hello, good evening. Ross Lewin from the probation department, supervising probation officer. Just wanted to share some information with everyone. Our department started an enhanced security and screening process last month, September 1st, at both of our facilities, the East Mesa Juvenile Detention Facility and the Youth Transition Campus. So basically what that entails is everybody entering the facility from our staff, contractors, family members, professional visitors, go through the same process, and it involves um, putting all your items in a, similar to the airport, in a bucket, going through a scanning machine, and then the individual will walk through a magnetometer, a portal, metal detecting, similar to what you would see at an airport or here at this building. And then the people who are running it are private security staff, not our department. If there's any hits, they'll use the wand. And we also have one canine that is not going to be deployed every day all the time. It's one canine and one officer handler, but that resource is available. So when there's issues, if it's something that's a restricted item, for example, or a prohibited item, like someone has a little pocket knife on their keychain, they'll be turned around and send it, take that back to your car. It doesn't mean they won't be able to come in. Something more serious will be elevated to the watch commander for a decision, and possibly involvement with law enforcement if it comes to that. So that's in play now, and it's new, so everyone's kind of getting used to it, but wanted to share that information with the board. It started September 1st, so a lot of our command staff are paying close attention to see how it's going, how it needs to be adjusted. And I'm sure I'll have more information at future meetings, but wanted to share that.
Thank you. It would be great to have a report in a few months to tell us how it's going, what you're learning, what you're finding.
That's, I think, what the plan is. So we'll see what kind of data is coming out of it. It's a month in.
Yeah, you don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't
Okay,
know yet.
Okay.
So far, though, I don't believe there's been any major fines other than people coming, oh, I forgot I had my, Leatherman tool on me or something, and they have to take it back to their car. But to my knowledge, there have been no major issues.
Yes, you may ask a question, Dr. Brown.
Since you are, I think I have this right, but please feel free to correct me. So probation sometimes houses people who are over the age of, they're like in their 20s, right? So do you have challenges with drugs or like that? How do you have people that try to?
Well, I'm not really prepared to talk about what's been found in the institutions because I don't really know. I'm not assigned there per se. To answer your question, we do have young people. I mean, we can't call them youths anymore like we did. They're young people that are upwards of 25 in our Youth Development Academy. These are the formerly known as DJJ young people.
Yeah.
Yes, we have that population.
That's why I was asking.
Yes. But as far as what kind of contraband is may or may not be in the facility, I can't comment on that.
I understand. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for our probation liaison? Yes, on Adia.
Last month when you came, unfortunately, I wasn't able to ask my question. We received a letter that stated that I could not divulge into ADA compliance. But since then, that letter's been overturned. So I'm going to ask if the probation department can come and do an ADA presentation for us so that we may know how you handle the inmates, specifically the ones who are neurodivergent.
I will pass your request on to the appropriate folks in the department. Yes.
Any other questions? Yes, Ariana.
And that's just ADA, that includes with folks that have like mental, like psychiatric disorders, or that's what is included? Because I think the sheriff has like two different understandings from the last meeting, where ADA was more of like the hearing and the and the visual.
I remember the conversation. I don't know
Yeah.
the answer to your question, though.
Yeah, so what I'm asking is if probation's ADA compliance includes meeting people's needs, if they like have like anxiety or some sort of other disorders.
Mental health
Mental health,
challenges.
yeah, challenges.
Yeah, I'm not prepared to answer any ADA related questions,
Oh, yeah,
primarily
okay.
because I don't know, but
Yeah, okay.
though if we do come back with a presentation similar to what the sheriffs did, I'm sure those questions will be answered by the
Okay.
appropriate person within the
Right.
department.
Yeah, I'm just saying because last time when the sheriff did come, like that was more of the focus in their understanding of the ADA compliance, where it had to do more about the hearing and the visual support that folks that can't see.
Understood.
I also like to say that, I like to say with what I found that was interesting, I started doing, you know, a person could have a disability, but they don't have to divulge that they have a disability. They have the right to not say, I'm not disabled. And there's sometimes people can't find out if they're disabled, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know how that applies to the youth detention facilities, but I believe he's gonna check to see what kind of an ADA presentation we might be able to have here and report back to us next month.
As soon as I can.
Excuse me?
As soon as I can.
Yes, I understand. And just to be clear, I think what Ariana's trying to clarify is that the presentation would include ADA presentation would include how probation is managing or supporting young people that might be neurodivergent. Okay, thank you. Lieutenant
Thanks.
Perkins.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the new board member. I'm glad to have you. I'd just like to start off real quick by saying I appreciate EO Kalina taking the time to meet with me and work on some stuff, specifically all the work you put in to get that memorandum of understanding written up pretty quickly, so your staff can respond back to the in custody death scenes. And I apologize. EO Kalina was correct. I just notified him this afternoon. I just got confirmation probably around 3 or 4 o'clock that the detentions investigation unit will be coming on, is it November 12th meeting to kind of expand on the CNIT program and some of those statistics involving the drugs we find, where we find them, and just kind of the subject matter expert that really knows, you know, all the details. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Nadia.
Lieutenant Perkins, as you recall, I sent you some questions, 4 questions specifically on September 5th. I'd like to read them out loud for full transparency, especially for the public, since they were sent to you privately. I will read the responses that you did to the second 2 questions that I sent, because you responded to those. What is the policy or general standard for updating location during a foot pursuit? And what is the standard for a vehicle pursuit? You sent me the policies and procedures that are listed on the sheriff's website, correct? Procedure 6.119 for foot pursuits. Deputies will do the following while engaged in a foot pursuit. If reasonably possible, as soon as practical, use the radio to transmit that a foot pursuit has been initiated and provide deputy location, direction of travel, and what the suspect is being pursued for, correct?
I'm sorry, was that for the vehicle pursuit or the foot pursuit?
Foot pursuit.
Yes.
Okay. Maintain radio contact by giving updates on direction of travel and suspect actions. Discontinue the foot pursuit if it is in the best interest of public and deputy safety. On the vehicle pursuit, you put during a pursuit, the primary pursuit unit shall continuously provide dispatch with all the changes to the above and any other pertinent information until the secondary unit takes over calling the pursuit. The secondary unit involved in a pursuit under most circumstances should take over calling the pursuit, provide all changes to information about the pursuit and any additional information available.
Correct.
So it is safe to say that the location of the officers is of the utmost concern.
Yes, it's very important.
Excellent. So the first two questions that I sent you, first question, what is the exact wording your 911 dispatcher used initially when answering calls? You stated, with respect, I don't have training or knowledge in this area, and since CLERB does not have jurisdiction over non-source staff, I think the most appropriate thing would be for me not to go into detail. Second question, is it standard for your dispatch to check ARGIS and/or CAD on a location for priority 1 calls, which would mean that once the location is updated, would they run the house through ARGIS or CAD to see if there are previous calls or guns registered to, correct?
Sorry, is that you saying, is that your question?
That's part, was that your understanding of my question?
Yes.
Okay. You put the same answer as above. So the reason, though I understand that we don't have oversight over
I
dispatch.
think I put a little more right after that.
Yes, you did. I can read the whole thing. Same answer as above. I can say that in general, if there's information about a particular address, residence, prior calls, hazards, etc., that this information will relay to a deputy when dispatched to a call. Thank you for that. The reason I'm asked, even though we don't oversee dispatch, is because, and this came out in Lexipol, it's a University of Colorado study that was done, how dispatch priming can drive some disastrous shooting decisions. So when we are looking at calls such as excessive force, calls that regard pursuits, my question was primarily because dispatch is the initial information that is given to the officers, correct?
Yes.
Which means that the information when an officer arrives can escalate or de-escalate depending on the information that is given.
It definitely comes into play. Yes.
Wonderful. That is my concern when I was asking. It's not specifically to oversight on dispatch, but because what a dispatcher gives is pertinent to how an officer may respond. Thank you.
You got it.
No other questions for you. Thank you, Lieutenant Perkins.
Okay, thank you.
With that, we are done. And Ellen, if you could please read us into closed session.
Yes, thank you, Chair Pintar and members of the board. On tonight's closed session agenda, you will have 12 cases for summary hearing as described in the agenda pursuant to public employee discipline, dismissal and release subject to Government Code Section 54957. And that concludes my read-in.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. We will take a 4-minute break and then come back and dive right into our cases.